Hello, SDL compatriots, and welcome. I'm your little cog champ, Gearchief here, and with me I got Anthony. And if you've seen, we have fallen ill. We are now animated.
I like the wording there. Yeah, I love your eyebrow. Like it
Ever
really
judging.
it sets the stage really nicely.
I'm just waiting for me to pop it up. Be like, really? You gonna leave that bomb? This week we have for you Divine Shockwaves versus Eclipse. And I think this is going to be a really exciting one. We know Shockwaves has been really doing very well this year and also this season. And Eclipse has had a tough time trying to keep it to 2 games, but they always seem to be able to pull it out when they need to. So this is definitely going to be a very competitive set.
That's kind of just the nature of Divine. Everybody tends to be either really close in skill or there can sometimes be some pretty significant gaps that tend to appear. But the same story as last season's Divine, where the longer the season goes, the more cohesive the teams get, the better the synergy gets, and seemingly the better the players get behind it. And both teams realistically have benefit from that. So I'm really excited to see if that continues to be the case, and that could lead to a really competitive set here.
I think one of the things you got to learn about Divine is they're just at that point where the mistakes are big enough that when one gets made, it can just send a whole game one way. So I think that's why a lot of these games go the way they do, because we could have one team that's vehemently in the lead, but they make that divine mistake, that kind of like flips the whole game on its head, right? Where the respawn timers are just too long, and it just kind of just you had it, but that one thing just costed you the whole game.
For sure, and there's a lot of if you look at the individual players, there's a lot of interesting kind of player by player storylines, I would say. When you look at the Rizzler versus Reyhum, for example, you have somebody who has played a multitude of roles in the SDL. We've seen both carry, we've seen some jungle, and we've seen mid. And there's also a big god pool there for the Rizzler. And Reyhum is somebody who has a big god pool and has been a staple of what I look at as SDL mid, because I can think of the Morgan and the Hell and off meta picks that always tend to work for Reyhum somehow. And then I would even continue that into the carry role where ZakuZz is definitely somebody who has been playing to playing to some surprise since it's a newer face, and ACookieNamedJoe, somebody who we saw more on support last season, has definitely been present and shown talent this season. So it's just Divine tends to just be this division of surprises and they haven't let us down.
I gotta say, I think Cookie Named Joe playing carry, I might have had something to do with it. I don't want to pat myself on the back here, but he started out on my team last year, and unfortunately, due to some trades, he ended up on Eclipse, I believe, and I put him as a sub on carry. He's doing very well, so I might have given him the confidence he needs to go
Ooh,
in there.
okay. I like the lore.
Yeah, but also to capitalize on Reyham, like you were saying, I remember playing against him. His Tiamat was something we constantly had to worry about because we would beat his team, but the numbers on the Tiamat were just like
Take
eye-opening, right?
pleasure in the crushing
Where
of
it
one's
just
enemies.
you was like, all right, we can't let him get away with that again because one wrong move and we're gonna slip up.
Yeah,
But
for sure. I My question for you then is when you were doing that, did you notice that the god pool for Cookie Named Joe was expansive? I mean, I know that's more of a analytical question, but I'm really curious because that can be something we look at because when somebody's off rolling, if their god pool is still deep, that shows signs of them being able to off roll and play around like that in a more sufficient way.
so he was very solid where we had him. And I don't want to say too much because it's not a good reflection of how far he's come since then
Sure.
because it was off roll. It was Born to Meme was originally our carry and he had a bad schedule, so Joe hopped in. And I think our first game he hopped in for us and it went to 3, but he definitely cinched it. And he
I
was
will
having a
leave
tough time
standing no
laning, but when it
barrier
came to the
to
team
our
fight phases, we knew we could
success.
rely on him. We were keeping him alive, and he was able to do the damage. So it just seemed like it was a newer role for him. When it comes to the god pools, he essentially just did whatever was in mostly in meta for that, or what he felt
Warriors,
comfortable on.
to
It didn't feel like
battle!
there was one god that he was dominant on, but it didn't feel like there was one that just kind of hindered him. He was up to play anything, and it was very comforting to have someone like him. And I tried to do everything I could to keep him when we were doing the trades,
Sure.
but the other team definitely saw his potential.
I think that's really important to keep in mind. And with the on her lock in here, something I'm looking to see is if you mentioned there's comfort there, there are some picks that are a bit off meta that can play really well
You're not
into that
going
on her. And
anywhere.
with the Jingchen lock in, that's surprising to me. I mean, that has to be support here. I mean, it could be solo, but I don't really like that in this scenario. I feel
With the
like this
Ravana
current,
there, yeah, I think it's
yeah,
definitely support.
yeah, because Ravana being solo right now, so strong, and I feel like Jingten would be very, I think, very susceptible to
Can you keep
ganks.
up?
And with a current
Kick his
meta that's so
ass!
insane with ganks, that could be frightening. And there, with the Danzaburou lock-in geared, see, that's exactly what I was talking about. Danzo does feel good into On Her. It's one of the few characters that can actually deal with how On Her 1v1s. Doesn't exactly win the 1v1s, but when you're playing Danzo into On Her, if On Her decides to give you the dual main, no brain,
Our
all
deed
in
shall be
of his
written
kit,
in
you can
legend.
actually respond on Danzo. With most other characters, you can't do that. So that's an interesting matchup that I would look for that matchup to see if CookieNamedJoe can keep ZakuZz under control, not on her, and can avoid the on her snowball effect.
I think the idea is to use the jug because if you get impaled or put in a bad position, you don't use that jug to start eating autos. Similar to how kind of Scotty would use Calder to save herself in some bad situations, just let him eat the autos. Because you could sit there and crit for as much as you want, but that jug needs X amount of hits. So it doesn't matter how heavy that honor's hitting, that jug can definitely save him out, and that's not even considering the taunt effect.
With the Guan Yu getting picked up, Gear, I'm not sure on the solo matchup here. I don't really like Guan Yu into Raven in the solo lane, assuming that's Raven solo so far. I feel like Guan Yu could be controlled a bit too easy and stopped too easy by a Raven from being able to comfortably farm and wave and get pressure out, all the things that we're used to seeing Guan Yu's do in a laning phase. If that isn't a Raven solo, obviously that changes things, but I'm not huge on the picks so far.
I would say Seismic Shockwaves has a very solid support pick. The On Her we've seen go one or another way. I don't know if you how many games you've casted or seen where there's On Her in it, but I remember there was one set I saw where On Her needed to go was traded back and forth, and then at a certain point they're like, all right, we just gotta ban out On Her outright.
Yeah.
But I've also seen On Her fall down too. So I think it's really gonna depend on how well they're good
Are
in these a
you
bit
awake
off
from the
meta picks. Ganyu's
darkness?
always
Hello,
solid
everybody.
with the cavalry charge and the stun and the healing, but to Ravana, I can understand how you feel there. But it looks like Seismic Shockwave is going for more of a healing sustain pick. What do you think about that build right now that we get to see the hell picked up?
I like it, but there's a
Where you
problem with it.
going?
I guess Eclipse isn't going to take advantage. I was going to say an Odin would be amazing into this team comp from Seismic Shockwaves, but with that Kakolan lock-in, I guess that's not the route they want to go, and I guess that means it's Raven jungle as well. Kakolan solo, Jington support. I feel like Odin would have been an amazing pick there from Eclipse. I mean, you would have had Ganesh. I mean, Ganesh can get out obviously with remove obstacles, but that's assuming that's still up. You would have had Ganesh, Guan Yu, and Hell all under control, all in trouble in a ring, and said you're going to choose the Kakolan, which can have a good laning phase against Guan Yu. Certainly not as much control as something like a Raven. So I feel like missed opportunity there. The Poseidon lock-in is great for the Rizzler. Been strong in that pick all season, but I'm going to be thinking about that Odin pick not being grabbed by
May the
Eclipse for
gods
the
of
rest of
Valkyrie
the
surround
game,
you!
and then Shockwaves pick it up. So I guess that's an Odin jungle.
Odin Jungle. I would say it's Odin Jungle because
Yeah,
you can do a lot out of nowhere with those Odin bombs, right? Those nice big bird dunks. So, but uh, hmm. I guess it does work because then you got the Poseidon who's stuck in there, and then Danzaburou, but everyone else can has the opportunity and ability to get out. So I don't know. It's definitely with this Odin. I want to see a lot of aggression early. Or Odin tends to, especially when he goes damaged, tends to fall out late because all his damage is essentially in that bird bomb. So if he lands and he doesn't really get enough damage out of it, he's got to pop the ult, but most likely he's just gonna blow up.
the Odin really needs to focus on the Poseidon. Just like you said, can't get out of the ring, but in that first level 1 to 4 range, Poseidon's going to be really vulnerable to that damage from Odin, and just in general, Odin is somebody who needs to take advantage of that early to mid pop, because once you get level 20, once everybody is on the same page, you're not going to be the same character you were even 5 minutes before that. So Seismic Shockwaves need to take advantage of that Odin advantage early.
I gotta say, I do agree, and it's all gonna be based on how well the jungle can abuse the early damage of the O. But I guess we're gonna have to end up seeing how that turns out when we meet you on the battlefield for game 1. Hello and welcome to Game 1, Divine Eclipse vs. Seismic Shockwaves. I'm your little cog champ, Gearchief, and with me, I've got AnthonyMalum on chair 2. What's happening today? Let's get in this bloodshed.
I love the little cock champ. It's such a cute opening.
I've terrorized the casters enough that I think I have to kind of. There's a little bit of lore in there, and maybe you'll go into it more someday. But I've terrorized them enough that I think I gotta take it up. I gotta accept it at this point. There's no hiding anymore.
One day for sure.
Definitely.
So we do have confirmation Odin jungle. Not that that's going to be a shock to anybody. I expected, yeah, it would have been weird, but I never would have put it past to anybody in SDL. We've seen much crazier things, and also going that blink on Odin, which will help out a lot. Don't necessarily have to commit to using Bird Bomb as your initiation. That'll be nice for Ganondad to not have to really trust him to that.
Yeah, but it looks like the Bird Bomb might have gotten into a bad situation, taking a lot of damage from Yeet and Rizzler, but that Hell is just going to really help out. Hell does end up suffering from a bit of a mana problem, so if Reyhum's forced to keep healing up Ganondad, it might be a problem. Here comes a blink, looking for the stun, finds it on Rizzler, jump, dunk, Rizzler barely gets out,
stone.
And there's that damage from the Odin, who just really is learning to abuse it early. Unfortunately, blink is down. Stun go on Yeet. Yeet is low, gets caught. Reyhum with the first blood. A nice little heal coming back from that heal ball. You'd think you would have thought Yeet would have been ready, because it seemed like they used the same thing twice and just got more value out of it the second time.
That was so well played from Reyhum there. I mean, that was a really awkward spot to be in. And people forget how much damage that Restoration can do to a god. And being able to get it off in that set, use those auto resets Hell has, was a really advantageous spot. But now, a lot of aggression coming out from the Shockwaves in the dual lane.
We see Shockwaves are a level above, meaning a whole ability that Eclipse does not have. And we saw them really using that ability, that advantage with all that jumping and that dive. But now we see that the levels are about even. Everyone has access to all their abilities, sans the ultimate. But we got Yeet here ready to make a play, trying to do something. Jim doesn't recognize. Here he comes. Nice little slow coming out. Force palms. There's the root. Jim kind of barely manages to dash out. ZakuZz give him the space with the jump and the hop bop. Doesn't matter. Here comes the root and the kill. Yeet gets a revenge kill on Gymkhana, but here comes Ganondad. Slam dunk right on top of Yeet. And now ACookieNamedJoe is in a bad spot, but manages to get a little sneaky away with the little money transformation. Leaves. I know. Here comes another dunk. ACookieNamedJoe just can't seem to get out of it. Caught in the taunt, but Ganondad, like we said, is really abusing that early game damage coming out of Odin.
With the Rizzler and Reyhum also duking out mid, there is action across the map, but what's really important is SwagMaster responding to that gank from Ganondad, now looking at the Rizzler. No ultimate, though.
Taylor Assault gonna just get enough poke out, but Rizzler is not only, thankfully at least, being a level down on a Hell when it comes to 5. There's no ultimate you really gotta worry about, but there will be a lot of damage coming out as Rizzler is now suffering from just being behind in lane, but Yeet coming in to help his boy. You're gonna think better about it.
Already upgraded teleport on the TheCasualOne on that Kakulin, which is interesting to upgrade that so early. Definitely does not want to take any risks in that soul lane falling behind. Let's go back to that fight that we saw in duo. Actually, by the wake, a SwagMasterUwU in a lot of trouble, has to dash away, but will be safe. So I can talk about what went down in duo. Ganondad with a really good rotation made the commitment to rotate early when he saw his team pushed up and was able to reward them getting aggressive. And it was a really nice play from both ZakuZz and Ganondad to keep Gymkhana safe. Redneck Yoda almost got Furious Roar onto Gymkhana with like 1 HP, but he got stopped, so he couldn't turn to hit Gymkhana, which is the only reason that Ganesh lived, which is a crazy micro play, but that's the entire reason that worked out the way it did.
Ganesh did end up dying, though, it was a nice little knock-up that kept him in place. But that Ganesh was really trying to get away. It was just a fight for his life.
Dying in lane would have led to a much different outcome for the Shockwaves, which is why I think that's so important.
You also put him out of position, too, right at the tower line.
Yeah, they were able to chase so far, and Redneck Yoda wasn't able to get any benefit from using that Furious Roar. Didn't have it for the follow-up from Ganondad and ZakuZz. Just a rough time all around for Eclipse, but now ACookieNamedJoe in trouble, but safe.
A lot of support coming out of Redneck Yoda, keeping ACookieNamedJoe alive. He's stepping up a bit too far. No care in the world. He's got to support to really start tanking the hits and not think twice. But uh-oh, here comes Reyhum being chased by YeetOnDaNaeNae. Just a matter of time before an ability comes out. No heal found. But Ganondad finds the return kill on Rizzler. 5 kills, just above 5 minutes, but it looks like we get a 6th one. Yaku's trying to hop away. The hands come out. Catch these hands. Yeet gets another kill on ZakuZz. 6 kills, and not even 6 minutes has passed. I don't know if we're watching a Conquest or an Arena game at this point, Anthony.
That's what's always so much fun about the Divine Division gear, is action like that is so commonplace. I mean, you were rightfully so looking at the fight between YeetOnDaNaeNae chasing down Reyhum. At the same time, Ganondad was dealing with the mid laner from the Shockwaves, had Reyhum in the ring, or excuse me, not Reyhum, but had Rizzler in the ring, doing tons of damage to it, not letting the Rizzler have anywhere to go. Just like now, Rizzler in trouble. One auto could do it. Can Reyhum catch up?
Zooming around at the speed of sound, Rizzler's available ability allow him to get away from Reyhum. And that is one of the awesome things about Poseidon, too. You just never truly realize how fast he can go, and just all of a sudden he's just zooming away and getting out of danger. But we see SwagMaster's now got Casual stuck under tower. Not a great place to be, especially if you got a YeetOnDaNaeNae.
Oh no, he jumped.
But ZakuZz hops out to dodge the rocket, but getting caught between a rock and a hard place. Falls down to Yeet, making sure that these kills stay higher than the minutes that have passed. So, Anthony, we obviously see that this is turning into a bit of a bloodbath, to say the least. But the one thing that I want to reiterate on is, do you think they're going to have the abilities to take the objectives when these times come? Because I've seen teams just murder other teams, the kills will go high, but they don't translate that. So when do you want to see them start translating it more into objective play rather than just going for straight kills?
I want to see it sooner rather than later. TheCasualOne in trouble, gets committed on, ganked. Odin ult will lead to his end. But just to answer you really quick, with how much money Eclipse is using, how much gold they're putting into getting ability to go around the map quicker. We see a War Chalice. I mentioned the upgraded teleport already. If you're going to commit so much to having these PvE-related items, you need to make those plays happen early. And Seismic Shockwaves are showing they're not afraid to send Ganondad around the map. So if I'm Eclipse, I need to take advantage of that Chalice, take advantage of that TP, get aggressive at the Gold Fury at 8 to 9 minutes, so that come 12 minutes for the first beacon, we're ready for that and go from there. You can't make all these small decisions with your gold, use them, hard commit, and then let the Shockwaves run away with the objectives.
And one thing I think we should recognize is Eclipse has all 4 kills on Yeet, which is fine, because it's a jungler, so you want him. He has more ability to rotate across the map, and it's nice to have your jungler ahead. But Seismic Shockwaves has kind of spread the wealth around more, allowing the experience to kind of be more evenly distributed, and not to mention gold itself. So I think Seismic Shockwaves has a bit of an advantage going in here. Redneck Yoda getting caught in mid between a Ganondad and Gymkhana. Instead, Whirlwind of Rage and Steel does not make it to the tower. Here comes the Dharmic Pillars out. Where did he go? Reyhum only knows he gets the kill, but here comes the Kraken getting the kill on Ganondad. Gymkhana falling down as well. Beautiful rotation from Rizzler. Loses his support, but gets 2 for his troubles.
Another crazy fight in mid, and another showing of how much damage Reyhum has been able to dish out so far on that Hell. And same thing realistically for the Rizzler. This is showing that both mid lanes are people to watch. That Kraken is always something you have to pay mind to. Now YeetOnDaNaeNae getting a deep gank on ZakuZz, who if he knows he's there, might be able to survive. And looks like Yeet's going to go the other way. Maybe Yeet's the one in trouble.
Ganondad, here comes the blink, looking for the stun. Backflip kick too early, doesn't matter. Oh, here comes the rocket, but he hops it! He gets out of the way just in time. Talk about awkward. ACookieNamedJoe manages to dodge enough for just a little while. Beads a bit early, but there comes the dash, and he manages to break the ankles on Ganondad. But doesn't matter, Desert Fury does enough damage, and then Reyhum comes to clean up. 2 against 4. YeetOnDaNaeNae just trying to run away. A bit of an invade kind of turning sour right now as he's got Gymkhana and Ganondad on top of him. Gonna end up losing his own purple buff for his, I would say, aggressiveness, or just a tad bit too arrogant, it seemed. He thought that jungle was his. He thought he had ownership of that, but he just got caught out, and his carry suffered.
Yeah, both members of Eclipse who were deep there really got overconfident about how deep they could go into the Shockwave jungle. I am surprised the Shockwaves didn't try to do more off of that on the left side of the map. Maybe set up for a gold, if not start gold, and clean up oracles at bare minimum. The only thing they really got was that purple buff. One thing I want to point out is that Shockwave's relic usage was a bit rough there. They didn't have their shell for that fight, so even when Gymkhana got there, it was down. Means they're saving it for the beacon fight. So you need to use the shell correctly in that beacon fight. If you want to use it in mid, didn't have it for a team fight. And with Redneck Yoda, it was used really early. So both support shell usage, a bit questionable there, and definitely needs to be something they keep in mind for those bigger team fights that should happen, such as the one as beacon. But now, TheCasualOne looking at a gank from Ganondad.
Trying to get the totem, but it doesn't matter. 3 standing up here. The dunk misses on Yeet, but hits the blue buff and managing to steal it. Ganondad now trying to use the cage for turnaround, and here comes the Dharmic Pillars to help out. Casual is stuck and falls down to SwagMaster on top of the Dharmic Pillars, but here comes the Kraken! Released, finding a kill onto SwagMaster. Would be Redneck Yoda, and then Rizzler gets the kill on Ganondad. Gymkhana trying to take everyone into Reyhum, who just blows up Yeet. Redneck Yoda looking to try to get out. Gymkhana just trying everything he can to stall this fight as Reyhum is just blowing people up. The Destro Ball, the detonate, making Yoda think twice. But Rizzler smells blood in the water, trying to include the sharks with the whirlpool. There goes the shark, and it finds blood. Rizzler does kill Reyhum. Now, Gymkhana is looking a bit rough. That health is just not what it used to be, and there's no support to help. The support, Rizzler gets another kill on Gymkhana, but it's been long enough for Ganondad to come back into this fight. Gonna opt for the beacon this time. Joe's here to try to create a little chaos, but it's not enough. 2 and a 3, but here comes Yeet. 12 levels strong, but it looks like Eclipse just gonna give up this beacon. That's honestly, that's different than what I'm used to seeing. I'm used to seeing teams die for that beacon, so to see Seismic Shockwaves just take it without Eclipse challenging it is definitely surprising.
I think the call may have just been from Rizzler to not fight without the Poseidon there. Poseidon is doing too much damage. Ganondad, no tank items, now being chased by Yeet, and with Redneck Yoda around the corner, could be in trouble.
Backflip kick stops the sun. Ganondad hops away, but it just couldn't get chased by Yeet, who doesn't manage to get the distance with the assault. But their Desert's Fury isn't enough. Odin's coming in. Redneck Yoda trying to hold Ganondad still, but not enough. But the mids are battling it
Still
out
fighting
themselves. And I believe we have 19 kills and only 13 minutes have passed. This game is just a bloodbath.
And seemingly unnecessarily so. I mean, they're still hard committing on Gymkhana in this duo lane, even without an easy kill in sight. I'm pressed to even try to talk about something, but I've talked about the shell usage once already for Gymkhana, and I'm not trying to go too hard, but we saw it again in that solo lane by that blue buff. Had upgraded shell and didn't use it for the Kraken from the Rizzler. Maybe that fight goes different, but that was so long ago that everything after Seismic Shockwaves kind of fumbled. They had the advantage. Reyhum was there to help, and they still had to give things up, and that led them to being in trouble. Speaking of trouble, now Reyhum forced to use his beads.
Beads are down, but when you're a hell, it doesn't necessarily matter because you have to cleanse in your pocket, looking for the reinforcements from the rest of the team. Gotta decide to back off. Now Joe's just gonna try to take the shield buff, but I don't think ZakuZz is gonna let him. But it's getting down to it, and it does go the way of ZakuZz, unfortunately for TheCasualOne. But one thing that I want to reiterate here on is bloodbaths are always fun to watch. They're definitely fun to cast, but it seems like all that's being focused on is the individual kills. We saw the, like you mentioned, they stayed to, no Gold Fury, no Pyromancer, and they're not even prioritizing the oracles too. So, do you think that, like, how do you think this game is gonna go? Do you think that they're gonna eventually take it, or do you think it's gonna be lost to the objectives? But I'm gonna tell you to hold that thought while Ganondad starts to get surrounded. The Kraken doesn't hit anything. Ganondad gets out just in time. The washing machine to try to find him, holding the stun in his pocket, manages to find someone. Biding time for the leap. Leaps back, gets caught up, not the place to be. Rizzler gets the kill, but now Redneck Yoda is falling low, getting stunned, picked up, thrown, tossed around, falls to Swagmaster, and now Yeet is stuck in the death ball. Getting low, the detonate doesn't find him, but the heal ball does! Reyhum sniping it like crazy. Where's the scope? Oh, Rizzler gets a kill on Gymkhana. Casual trying to find his way out, and he does. Swagmaster falls to Rizzler, and now Reyhum's weak, and it's just a slap-happy box match. But no one's gonna find the kill on anyone. Here comes Joe, and he gets the kill on Reyhum, who manages to just get caught out. There was way too much tower diving in that. And this is what we're talking about. They're too focused on the bloodshed. They had the pressure, and they just went too deep and just gave it back up to Eclipse.
To answer the question that you asked me, at this point, I just anticipate this game's going to be a bloodbath until either a 4-man or 5-man death. Deicide potentially. ACookieNamedJoe does get pushed away from the pillar, so no chance for ZakuZz to get the kill there. It's going to need to be a situation where one of these two teams are like, oh, hey, we killed everybody. Oh, crap, there's objectives on the map we should probably go do. Because at this point, I mean, they've shown that the only objective they cared about was Beacon, and that's just because it's in the middle of the map. They have no desire for the gold. They just want to fight, and they just want to farm, get their items online, and I guess limit test. I mean, Rizzler's past that point already. We've seen what the movement speed and the do more combo is doing for the Poseidon, and the Shockwaves, they're really leaning on this hell for damage, and they need more from on her. And with the build that Odin's going Hydras before going Transcendence, you're committing to your damage coming from resetting and getting in close and sticking on a target. And with the chaos they've had, that doesn't work out. Going Transcendence on your next item means you're committing to farming for a while, which hasn't been the case this game. So we could really see this Odin fall off for the next 2 to 3 minutes.
I'm gonna have to make an audible here and say I don't think that's gonna be Transcendence. Item 3? Oh, you know what? All right, never mind. I look foolish now. I was gonna say it was gonna be a Heartseeker. Yeah, L plus ratio plus learn Smite plus get out. I thought it was gonna be a Heartseeker because you get the damage a bit more immediately. And I think the idea is to just kind of farm off of kills, like lean on that bloodbath. Seismic Shockwave's gonna get the second Stygian beacon, and for teams that are so bent on bloodshed and just kills, I'm surprised no one fought for that. I am honestly surprised at the passiveness of Eclipse onto these Stygian beacons. But for the first objective in the game, hey, Seismic Shockwave's looking at Pyromancer, and it's very appropriate. Can they steal? Seismic Shockwaves does confirm the Pyromancer. I don't think the bomb was picked up. I'm raising my eyebrow. Okay, there we go. Eclipse looking to return with the Gold Fury, but here comes ZakuZz. Yeet sees him, or Yeet doesn't see him, turns around, and here comes all the Seismic Shockwaves. Eclipse is going to pull out, leaving a half-finished Gold Fury for Eclipse, or for Seismic Shockwaves. Gold Fury going down. Seismic Shockwaves does get it, and now Eclipse is in a bad position. Yoda's out. Here comes the washing machine. The hop to drop gets the damage. Looking for the stun. Shell pop. Yoda is not out of this yet. Ganondad walking into a hungry shark. Rizzler finds the kill, and despite it being a kill, that was a lot for the Seismic Shockwaves. They got both objectives on the map with a bomb in their pocket. I think that Eclipse needs to be more aggressive when it comes to these. It's just funny how they get so aggressive for these little fights. Like, just simply here, Reyhum and Rizzler aren't even fighting over anything, but they're just fighting.
Yeah,
but
they
when it
must have
comes to
beef.
these, yeah, when it comes to these objectives, though, it doesn't seem like Eclipse really wants to stand up to it.
Yes, the biggest L's that the Shockwaves took were Ganondad dying and using beads on the Kraken there for no reason. I mean, that was it. Excuse me. Everything else was a W.
Talk about blood in the water. It's definitely appropriate to have this this Poseidon skin with all these sharks coming out with the Kraken and the the wave, because that's essentially what it is. It's just there's just blood in the water and everyone's going to it. Like there's no stop. There's no second thought. Yeah, it's just
Look at the
it's
charts.
Yeah, the gold and XP swinging back and forth. But one thing I gotta say is pretty interesting is that the XP is slightly in Eclipse's bonus, but Shockwaves has more gold, but just barely. I'm surprised Shockwaves doesn't have more gold. I guess it's in the kills, though, and it's turning good for Eclipse. This is definitely a bit kerfuzzling.
And most of that experience lead for a while was on the Rizzler. Now it's on ACookieNamedJoe on the ADC role. And the gold lead's been so back and forth, like you said, despite the recent objectives from Shockwaves, which would usually lead to a big jump. But because of the kills, Eclipse had a lead for a long time. It was just slight that the Shockwaves made a dent on with those objectives. Now Rizzler taking the long way, looking for a gank on SwagMaster.
Not gonna find it, but I can't imagine he wouldn't commit a bit more. This tower is looking not very good. But I mean, that T1 in Soul Lane's gonna fall. There's no protection for SwagMaster in this tower. Thing's gonna fall. Here comes the Kraken. The dash is out. Couldn't find the cripple. SwagMaster dodging a pretty bad situation. Looking to call for reinforcements as both teams start shifting over. Only Redneck Yoda is going to come to the aid. And just seems like they're going to, for once, disengage a little bit.
I know, it's finally calm for a second. There's actually room to breathe, collect thoughts. 17 stacks on the Transcendence, by the way, from Ganondad. I'm really keeping an eye on that Transcendence because Ganon needs to get that thing stacked
Especially
ASAP.
as late as it is, yeah. Because you'd think you'd really want to focus on farming when you only have 20 stacks on a Transcendence that's 20 minutes in.
Yeah, that was what worried me about going it so early, but now we're seeing a big group up, and looks like they really want to commit for YeetOnDaNaeNae.
Looking for the dunk, but Ganondad committed too much, having to use the cage or an escape. Going to regroup with his team. Yoda looking low, gonna die for Joe. Here comes the cavalry charge. Stun, beads are out. Joe's all alone. That damage from Reyhum, the hot bop, stuck in the air, impaled in the wall. And now Seismic Shockwaves has all the space to do whatever they want. Pyromancer, Fire Giant, any towers. The only thing they got to answer to is essentially Rizzler at this point. TheCasualOne's just there for frontlining.
It will be tough to do a Fire Giant in the face of the Kraken, but it looks like the Shockwaves want that tier 1 tower, and now they're going to commit for it.
Get the tier 1, Casual putting up as much of a fight as he can. Gonna chase with Rizzler, not gonna let this Pyromancer go down too easily. And I gotta say, I'm very happy to see the Divine Relic coming at, what is it called, that pyramid item? Divine Ruin, I knew it was Divine, I got it. Kraken going out,
Anywho.
Gymkhana falling. Rizzler finds a kill on Ganondad, SwagMaster going in, and manages to help Reyhum find the kill on Rizzler. But in goes Nene to try to get a return kill on ZakuZz, forced to use beads. I don't think it'll matter. So low, barely able to get out. Spin to win comes out from Yoda, throwing Gymkhana back in the fight. But Reyhum is just blowing up everything. Joe throws the rocket, but he's not in it. Trying to get a return kill. There goes one. Can Joe get two? Looking for SwagMaster, not going to find it. Reyhum does the detonate, but it was kick flipped. Not enough to find Joe, who gets a double kill and came at just the right time to save what's left of his team, honestly.
All right, that was another crazy one. Clearly the mistake there from the Shockwaves was not having target selection. They spread their damage significantly so, while Eclipse was able to pick one at a time. Now ACookieNamedJoe could be the one at the time. Jump down from ZakuZz. Could be in trouble.
Which one is really him? They couldn't figure it out. SwagMaster was so close.
If only they had spectator view.
Yeah, if he knew, he would be so mad, because he definitely was. He was sure he hit that one too. but this looks like this beacon's gonna go the way of Seismic Shockwaves again. Yeet
Yeet?
too low to fight, but here comes Rizzler and all his damage. Swagmaster falling low. Cage is up. Yeet trying to find the way out. Forced to use the ultimate, but being chased by Odin. Swag's falling low, but clinging on to what health he has. And down goes Yeet to Ganondad. In comes the washing machine to try to control ZakuZz, but doesn't do enough damage. There's no one really to set up for. His Casual's not throwing the damage. It's Rizzler who's now stuck in the back. Ganondad causing chaos like he loves to do and has been able to. ZakuZz finding Redneck, but the Kraken finding Ganondad, which might have been a bit too much committed to just the Odin, as all of Seismic Shockwaves is standing on not their first, not their second, but their third confirmed Stygian beacon.
I find it ridiculous that we've had so much fighting non-stop, and if you look at the relics, almost everything is down. It's crazy, right? Except the ADCs are pulling a Zapman relics, and the supports don't want to use their shells in all this team fighting. I kind of love it. It's chaos.
Oh, Swagmaster was baited into the back, getting caught in the rock. Joe's caught out, though, and does fall down to Swagmaster as Seismic Shockwaves gets the Gold Fury and trying to even up. 20 kills for Eclipse, 18 for Seismic Shockwaves, and the time is... Yeah, the golden XP is bouncing around. That's
the XP chart looks broken.
You'd think that was an EKG.
It looks like, yeah, it looks like me drawing on a coloring book. It's completely out of whack.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's...
Hey, maybe I shouldn't have, you know, self-deprecated that much, but having dyslexia and OCD and looking at a coloring book is actually impossible. It's like doing a Rubik's Cube while being in a sensory deprivation chamber.
So you're just essentially you're blind doing a Rubik's Cube is what you're telling me.
Yeah. But with extra steps.
Of course. Titans coming out, meeting in mid lane. Only Gymkhana and Reyhum appearing to defend this. As we see from the side, here comes Ganondad, dunk into a cage. Rizzler forced to use relics. Will pull out. Here comes the Kraken in a panic, finds nobody.
No
Rizzler
shells.
falls to Reyhum, forced to use the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel to save his team. YeetOnDaNaeNae is not able to set too much up. ZakuZz finds the kill in duo lane, but just barely. I don't think ZakuZz is really gonna have the health to do too much here, but I think this T2 might end up falling to Seismic Shockwaves as they are the only ones with a Titan to defend this. Swagmaster going in to push out everybody else. Ganondad holding the look to Peg Zone with that basketball, but it doesn't find anybody. This tower's falling down, and there's not much Eclipse can do about it. Everyone's looking hungry. Jumping in, Ganondad finds the stun on TheCasualOne, who's now just too low to defend, and this Titan is still alive. Rizzler is looking not like he's going to spawn
Somebody
anytime
use the
soon to
shell.
help out. Shell being used, but does not save ACookieNamedJoe. Reyhum just too much damage. Redneck Yoda hopping out, and not only did they get a mid tower, but a Phoenix as well, and the Titan is still very much alive, possibly a second T2 being looked at, and now this is not looking good for Eclipse.
ZakuZz has been at that tier 2 for a while, just now able to get it, so they did all that without their ADC too, which doesn't bode well for Eclipse, but being able to get that Phoenix off of the Chaos Titan push is gigantic, especially with 30 minutes around the corner. EFG could be a target soon. Fire Giant hasn't really been started yet. You've got Pyromancer still available as well to get that boost. And Eclipse really need to sit back and lick their wounds. They used a significant amount of relics in that last engagement, including a shell, which I'm so happy about. They will have all their ultimates up, and Rizzler is a big threat, especially with the build that Rizzler's gone. Rizzler can get there quick, which sounds like a silly, small fact, but that is something that's really going to be important because it'll give Rizzler a really clean route to get to that Fire Giant for a steal if the Shockwaves decide they want a 50-50. Because while they could see him coming from wards, they could respond with walls, he just won't have enough speed to potentially get to it. Doesn't have the relics, though. The other thing that I want to point out is Ganondad doing the damage he's doing is important, but he's very low in the charts. And with the build he's gone, he has no survivability, so he could be blown up instantly, and the Shockwaves could find themselves down a member way too soon.
Looking at Fire Giant, Seismic Shockwaves going uncontested. I don't know if Eclipse decided to just let it go because it's not enhanced yet, but with very few ward coverage over there. I don't even know if they were being done. You could only speculate as to what they were thinking. Right now, watching these fights. It seems like Seismic Shockwaves is very organized, and Ganondad is doing a lot of the initiation damage to scatter Eclipse. Is what I think is happening. Is he might not be doing just a lot of pure damage, but if he can scatter the team and make it easier for his team to pick someone out, he goes in the blink in the cage, making everything a bit easy. A panic Kraken comes out, but it misses. Joe falls down, Rizzler falls down, Reyhum getting the kill on Rizzler, Joe getting killed by Ganondad, so much damage popping out. Yoda just tanking everything, but it's not enough. Reyhum gets a double kill. This Phoenix is not long for this world, my friends. YeetOnDaNaeNae's left with TheCasualOne. 5 looking at this Titan. It's not good. 2 Phoenixes are down. Yeet's trying everything, but falls to Reyhum, getting a triple kill. Can it be a quadra kill? We can see there's a quadra kill for Reyhum. Only being stolen away ends the game with Seismic Shockwaves' victory. Oh, I forgot I was animated. Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the desk. That was one exciting game, to say the least. But I think,
chaos.
yeah, I think the desire for kills kind of overwhelmed Eclipse, and I think the big ability for Seismic Shockwaves there was able to rein it in and start doing objectives and not fight so chaotically.
They eventually just started getting the better of nearly every fight that they could. If they could control the Rizzler in a fight, they could win the fight. And then whenever that happened, they're like, "Oh, we should probably use this time to go get an objective." Is essentially what happened. And Reyhum with a massive quadra to end the game, a nice moment there for the Shockwaves, and that game felt like it was 5 minutes, and the amount of fighting could be exhausting. What's interesting is because there was lacking a strategy is what I want to say, and there was such an emphasis on kills that really forebodes an interesting aspect to game number 2, where it's like, what do we actually change here? Because the biggest thing we need to change is mindset. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of what the Odin Jungle brought that game. I think it was very impactful for about 5 minutes, and then Ganondad played it well, and the ultimates were really good, but the character itself, the damage provided, certainly fell to the wayside. I mean, ended up below both the solo laner and the ADC, who didn't have significant amounts of damage either. It was really just Reyhum there. And then for Eclipse, I don't really hate much that they did. I would like a better support pick, maybe something for more clean and obvious setup. And ACookieNamedJoe definitely could stand to pick an ADC with maybe some more hyper carry potential to kind of stand toe and toe with the Rizzler.
In my personal opinion, I don't think it was purely picks. I think that ACookieNamedJoe did very well rotating at times. ZakuZz was able to pick it up towards the end despite falling behind at the mid game. I think the big problem there for Eclipse was the fights were too chaotic. It was too much blood in the water where they were just throwing abilities out. It was just trying to engage and attack. It felt like everything Seismic Shockwaves did towards the end was a bit more planned, and they had an idea of what they wanted to do. Send Ganondad in, scatter them all out, and pick them up, pick off who's closest, and then go down the chain. Because that's what it just felt like. That Seismic Shockwaves was able to just manage the team fights a bit better. And Eclipse was a bit disorganized when it came to him. I think if Eclipse can kind of target prio, or bait in, so like they know Ganondad's coming in, maybe let him do it, pop in, and then blow him up, and then with the cage there, Phantom Shell and let everyone get out. I think maybe that's why it was saved so much, as they was trying to use for the cage, but I also didn't see it used too much on the cage as well.
Yeah, that was a big thing for me, was the relic usage of that game from both sides, really. I mean, a lot of times during the team fights, I find myself, when I'm not doing play-by-play, I stare at the mini map and look at relics during the fight, and I see what gets used when. And I found myself continuously confused as to two main things: the lack of ADC relic usage and how long the supports were holding the shell. I understand you want to use it to keep people alive, but a lot, it's sort of like Nox Ultimate, where a very well-known kind of borderline meme thing within Smite is people forgot what Nox Ultimate did and that it reduced 40% damage. So people would tend to use it to secure a kill at long range, more like a Giannis Ultimate. And then at higher levels of play, you'd see a Nox Ultimate be the initiation because it lowered the damage, now 30%, back then 40%, which is significant. I kind of feel the same way about Shell in these circumstances. A lot of those fights, especially for Shockwaves early, had Shell been used in a different aspect, probably could have been a big difference maker, especially with the amount of burst and pop damage that Eclipse had. And same thing for Eclipse. They could have used that Shell a lot of times to deal with both the burst coming out of Reyhum and the bird bombs that were consistent from Ganondad if they needed to, if they felt like that was an issue. And we kind of saw both supports holding on to it. And we saw Horrific get picked up by Gymkhana towards the end that we didn't actually see get used because the fights were so chaotic. So I just need a little bit more there. And, even to take it one step further, and just to give both teams the harp for the relic usage, TheCasualOne upgraded their teleport relic on their first back, and they did not use it for the advanced cooldown to rotate to mid, rotate to duo, even do anything weird at Gold Fury. If you're gonna make those decisions, make plays off of it. Get nuts.
So I know you're talking about a bit of the team composition or some of the gods that you want to see picked. And I think one of the things you're harping on a bit was definitely the Xing Tian that you were a bit questioning. So what do you want to see in support instead of that Xing Tian?
I think the big thing for Eclipse was setup. They like the Rizzler. A lot of times
Take
we were seeing
pleasure
the
in the
Rizzler
crushing
kind of
of
having the free
one's
cast
enemies.
abilities and not having true secure. We saw a few really nice routes from Redneck Yoda, which leads me to the spot where, obviously these things have to make it through ban phase, pick phase for it to matter, but picks like Athena or, even if you want to get if you want to go off meta and go crazy, I think even a character like a Bacchus or something would have brought a little more value than Jingxin in that first game. The way that Redneck Yoda had the position in fights and the predictability, it's kind of like the Ares and Neath syndrome where, oh, Aneath is walking at me, she's gonna backflip. Or, oh, hey, the Ares is doing the blink dance. Jingtons do the same thing. They stand in between four people and try to position themselves perfectly, and you can go, oh, he's about to spin. With a character like Geb, which I love this pick, you don't have that. You have the Geb shield, so you've got shells on cooldown, and you've got Cataclysm, so you can get that blink Cataclysm off, go crazy with it, and actually give some setup to your team.
And I think one of the advantages too is I remember you saying about the Xing Tian, how he's like, oh, he's gonna do it. He's gonna start spinning, and then you get when he starts, you get like a first spin kind of to get away, and then you can
Time
use
to
beads before he tosses you,
burn.
so you have opportunity to get away, right?
Yeah.
If again blinks ults, you're stunned instantly, right? So you're held in place immediately. There's no wind up. There's no preparation. He blinks, you're stunned, and now if they're if they're intelligent, they're going to drop some big damage on top of you. There's going to be some coordination, as well as a combination of the shield that you're talking about. So I definitely think Gab is a bit of a better choice coming out here. But the one character that I'm a bit curious about is this AMC, because one thing with AMC, it's one of our favorite phrases here at STL is feast or famine, because I feel you can watch AMC run through entire teams, or let just stuck in colorblind mode in grayscale. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean, and not exactly what I was looking for. I did mention that I wanted to see Cookie Named Joe on something a little more hyper carry, and AMC can certainly bring that, but I don't think AMC brings that in too significantly different of a way than Danzaburrow, especially in a competitive setting where AMC can very easily become the focus of a team. And you mentioned target priority. AMC is if an AMC's picked, that's your target priority as a team. Everybody sees blood in their eyes. And I worry a bit for Cookie Named Joe's safety, especially in the early game. Could see a lot of focus and a lot of ganks, especially if it ends up being a Raven jungle who loves to camp out that duo lane, get the Mystic Rush over the walls there in the long lane. You have a long time to chase down the enemy ADC. I mean, the Geb certainly helps it. The shield's going to be significantly important for that AMC and to be able to survive, but it's still not quite what I wanted. I would have liked to see, as meta and brain dead as some people like to think it is, I would have liked to see a Rama or an Ishtar or a
Your
Hachiman that
terror
wasn't banned.
comes to an end.
Side bet. Do you want? How much do you want to guess that's Rizzler's AMC in mid?
I don't feel confident at that because I don't think Eclipse want to be without objective secure, because the way that they were playing in game 1, obviously objectives were the problem. I
Mhm.
would be hard pressed to believe that nobody on their team would say, maybe we need to get a bit cleaner with objectives, guys, and say we need some kind of secure. And currently, they've got none. And if they lock in this set, they have even less. So if you're putting yourself into a position where you have to pick up a Freya ADC or something like that, you're going to have even less secure. So they desperately need a traditional mid.
What I'm noticing is open is the Marticarus. Now, I don't know if at this point.
It is still currently banned.
The only reason I say that is
Face
because
the
they used a ban
crushing
last game on
suns.
it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was a
That's
miscommunication or not, but it is in a spot where it could not be played, so
okay.
that is
All
not an
right. So
option on the table.
that was one thing I was wondering too, is because I didn't know if at this point was he banned or was he not. But I'm guessing he's banned right now, which I think is a good thing because I think he's a trap pick. I think I think he does a lot, and I think he's great in ADC. But when people start picking him mid, I think he can do well in mid. But I think they fall victim to the fact that they then don't have anything magical to pick up the missing part of the mid. They'll physical soul laner, jungle, and physical ADC. So I watch teams do very well with him, but then they just fail to kind of get out the damage despite his ultimate because his ultimates can only really single target, right? So not really
like
single target, but it's kind of hard to spread it out too much
Sure.
and get a lot of value out of it. So I think people fall victim to that, and then all of this they don't really realize it until it's too late, or might not realize it at all. So I'm kind of happy to see Marty taken out. Final picks coming up for the and I gotta say the Kumbhakarna coming out. I would like to see a Kepri. I think I would, especially with the set,
Okay.
the
I like
Thoth, and the AMC. I think a Kepri would have been a bit more value coming out.
I think
here for the
I think
support.
Kepri's ultimate would have been more valuable, but I will say I like the CC choice of the Kumbhakarna because you're against a team that's gonna. I mentioned it, they're gonna find themselves incredibly vulnerable, incredibly in need of CC immunity, which you've got 3 characters who, I mean, Set obviously has his way of getting away from you, but a lot of times Sets can overplay their hand and find themselves without a clone to go to because there is currently a bug with Set they cannot abuse. And with Thoth, you have the same situation where you catch that dash down and you're in a position to use some CC, he's dead. And then AMC, again, the same thing. If you can find yourself in a spot where you're locked in with an AMC and you can CC the AMC, they're just dead. And there's a lot of damage that the Shockwaves could control theoretically if they can get enough CC under control.
Now, looking at these teams, is there one team you like over the other, or do you think they just have about the same chance?
I think it's gonna come down to, is there a mindset change from game to game? If we see a game similar to game number 1 where it's constant fighting, I actually kind of like the chances of Eclipse. If we see a new take on it, if we see objective to objective, I'm kind of leaning away of Shockwaves just because I think the Rama and the Agni will provide so much backline damage that I don't think Eclipse can respond to. Shockwaves will be in a good spot.
I think we'll definitely see when it comes to games. We're gonna head to the battlefield, and we'll see you there. Hello and welcome to Game 2, Divine Division Eclipse versus Seismic Shockwaves. I'm your little cog champ, Gearchief here. With me, I got AnthonyMalum, and let's see if there's going to be just as much bloodshed in this game as the last one.
I kind of hope so. It's kind of fun, but at the same time, I would like to see some objectives. We are getting close to playoff time. We're watching 2 teams, both in the middle of the pack for the Divine Division. They want to get that good seeding. It is important. You want to be able to go against the lower seeded teams, put yourself in a nice spot to have a good playoff run. So these games matter. a lot, and they're still finding synergy for that matter. So there's a lot that does matter here. And Seismic Shockwaves in particular, I think, have a team comp where they can really look to force the issue on objectives, because Eclipse, for a long time, aren't going to have that ability. They have a very late game comp as Rizzler's forced to use beads. And I think if Shockwaves take advantage of that, they're in a great spot.
Forced to use beads and his dash, now subject to anything that Reyhum and Ganondad want to get him, because one thing they both have is definitely CC, but Yeet's got some damage that they're forced to respect, pushing them off and giving Rizzler the space to throw the hieroglyphic assault. Ganondad coming in, catching the hands is Rizzler, but not enough damage is done. But Yeet is now stuck one level down. Ganondad gonna head off into the jungle, and they're gonna split their own ways doing these camps. Casual's fallen pretty low, showing the dominance that comes out of Shiva. And so the one thing that's always fun about these bloodshed games, right? It's always nice because you get to call it out. It's not very slow, and it's definitely easier as casters because a lot more happens to they don't have to fill up dead air. But I feel like the big problem is when it gets to late game, it's just a lot of nonsense at that point, where it's just and we're fighting and we're fighting and we're fighting again, and then the game state doesn't really change, and it just tends to drag out games when all you're doing is going for these kills and not really setting up for the win.
Yeah, that pretty much, right? I mean, Ganondad sitting here camping out duo is to be expected on this Robin, and now stepping in, but ACookieNamedJoe is very safe.
Gets saved by the shell, cleansing him of the root and giving him the health to run away. He's looking to gank on a SwagMaster, can't find it, not able to keep him down. Reyhum gets a stun on Rizzler though, and now it's just a lot of damage coming out on both sides of the field, but nothing yet close for a first blood.
I like that. I hope it kind of stays that way. It'll force them to play calm. I mean, Reyhum very pushed up. Rizzler could get crazy here depending on Reyhum's choices.
Reyhum taking a hieroglyphic assault and living to... There goes another one just getting poked out. Rizzler is really
Reyhum smacking his keyboard right now. I hate that character.
So dumb. He gets a range. Because those were barely touching him too. And that's one of the things you got to worry about with Thoth, is if you think you're far enough away, take another 2 steps back. You know? Especially with level 5 coming out with that big ultimate.
I mean, it is kind of absurd that Thoth's hieroglyphic assault can hit you when you're at your bar mitzvah, you know, like I feel like that range has always been a little absurd, and it's a lot to deal with, but you do have to respect it. And you know, to kind of look at the metagaming there between the two, that's a really nice matchup for Thoth, because it can control how close Reyhum can stay as SwagMaster in a lot of trouble out of nowhere.
SwagMaster able to use the ultimate that he has over... TheCasualOne using the ultimate that he has over SwagMaster, but doesn't get the value out of the health. SwagMaster now being 5 gives a bit more space to allow the ultimate to heal him up. Ganondad looking to gank, but not gonna find it. TheCasualOne gonna back instead. And now this blue buff is just kind of sitting there. I'm kind of hoping that Casual can get back to it soon enough.
I'm already noticing something here, and I feel like
Do share.
the pace of this game, it's so much calmer than game 1 already, but it's a different calm. It's a timid calm. It's a not making mistake calm. And
On the razor's edge type.
Yeah, and what tends to happen in games like that, especially and I say lower division in terms of technicality, especially in lower division games, when that happens, it can lead to one team really picking the ball up and running with it and taking advantage of the other team's timidness. Because you start to realize, oh, we can just go do Gold Fury, and if we're here first, they're not going to feel comfortable fighting. And then that skyrockets and snowballs, and it all starts to compound into a spot where the other team can't take advantage of it anymore.
That is definitely something you got to worry out for, especially when it comes to Eclipse, who might be a bit more hesitant to do too much because of last game, right? They were leading in kills, and they were doing very well, but Seismic Shockwaves was able to turn it around. So Eclipse is definitely trying to play a bit safer than they were previously, because I think we had more kills than we had minutes in the last game, and now it's 5 minutes in.
We definitely did.
We definitely did. 5
It was
minutes in.
3-2 at 5 minutes and 30 seconds last time.
It was 3-3 as soon as I mentioned that. I commented, I was like, oh, 5 minutes in, 5 kills.
Yeah, it's
All right,
crazy.
5 minutes in, 6 kills. And I know there was about like 47 kills last game, and I think they barely just passed 30 minutes. So for all this to be happening at 5 is definitely concerning. YeetOnDaNaeNae landing the stinger on ZakuZz. ZakuZz falling low, but managed to hit the astral arrows onto Cookie. Here come the bees, the annoying little DOT of Smite. And now both teams are looking like they're picking up in mid lane, but Yoda's able to push Seismic Shockwaves off. Yeah, definitely timid to say the least. I think you hit the nail right in the head with that one. But I don't think it'll stay that way for long. I think as soon as the first one happens, it's going to be like like a piranha feeding frenzy. where it's like,
that's a good point.
It happens and like, all right, there's no more, like, we're not scared to die anymore. We're not scared to get first blood, just go. And it was funny because season 1 I'd play, right? And I always got first blooded, but it was always nice for my team because after I did that, they were never worried that they were gonna be the first ones. So I always they called me the first blood king, and they were like, all right, he was first blood, we're gonna win this one. We're gonna win it now. I always had to die first.
No, respect the 1v1. Respect the 1v1.
Oh, here comes the teleport out, but Kingslayer's up. ZakuZz does fall, and here comes the first blood. Ganondad looking to see if he can get a return kill, thinking better of it. And now I think the dam is broken. Let's see if there's a flood of kills coming out. Charging up the ultimate, thrown into the air. The absolute disrespect coming out of Gymkhana. Rizzler's now stuck halfway the lane, but there goes Evade and Punish through the glyph, allowing him to find safety. That was just such a
that was Gymkhana's Vin Diesel family moment.
You know that meme where there's like the bird and there's a finger against it going shut? That's what that was.
Yeah.
That's exactly what that was.
That was ridiculous. That was Gymkhana from the top rope.
Yeah. And here he comes with the steel chair.
Yeah, that was absurd. I love that. What a play.
That was such a tease too, because you're like, oh, here comes the second. Nope. Sky bounced down and gets away. Good play from Gymkhana though, managing to save his ADC in such a precarious position. Definitely great play from the evolution we've seen him, because in season 2 we saw him in the Challenger League, and now we see Gymkhana really making a staple of his own in the Divine League. Here comes Nene to get a second gank out on ZakuZz, but ZakuZz is not in a bad enough position or low enough health to really take advantage of Aiden Punish. Puts ZakuZz in a bad spot, and ACookieNamedJoe just can't find the damage in the bees. And here comes the ultimate from Rama. The snipes just hit for retaliation damage, but not enough to kill. Rizzler dashing out, and I'll say this, the dam is broken, but there ain't no flood. We're already 8 minutes in, and we only have 1 kill for Eclipse. And to say that was I wouldn't say lucky kill, but just a chance kill, because, I mean, ZakuZz almost got away there, and was about to. We just saw that Yeet was able to get the final damage off of the Sandstorm and the ultimate. So that was even just a bit of a tough kill, to say the least. That wasn't even like a complete obliteration.
Yeah. The big problem there for me with ZakuZz was that there was an army marching over there, and we didn't see anything get really taken or started. I mean, the jungle invades have even been light, so the timidness continues. You know, I mentioned that I watch relic usage, and the most significant one was that beads from ZakuZz. There really hasn't been many beads, blinks, nothing besides that. Everything has been so calm this game. The most action we've seen is those 1v1s. And I mean, I really don't like 1v1ing AMCs, especially with, not even just with Rama, with any character. With the left-handed autos, it feels weird. Now TheCasualOne in a lot of trouble. The army's coming that way.
Gonna hop in the somersault cloud, looking like trying to get away, sitting for health, but with the Ox available and the bird, gonna be able to just get away as safe as Sun Wukong is. And I think it also holds credence to the fact that a lot of these gods are a bit safer than gods previously. Especially in solo lane, Swagmaster's got that extended dance for the CC immunity. Doesn't matter. ZakuZz can't get in the sky quick enough. Falls again. And those wards are just not helping him. Falling low to just ACookieNamedJoe alone, just for Yeet to come in and help finish up and clean up. And it's just still 2-0.
Before the gank on TheCasualOne, what I was going to mention was ZakuZz being ganked at this time is really smart, because having that Dev's Gloves finished, having Executioner online, while ACookieNamedJoe is still finishing up Transcendence, this is the only time you could fight that AMC, because you'd have the advantage in that 1v1, and 1v1ing AMC is no fun, so ZakuZz getting ganked out here, not being allowed to do that, is significant.
And with the ultimate from AMC, it can stop ZakuZz from really trying to dash away. And then if he's forced up in the air, the stinger will fall, and then he can get it. Ganondad looking for a kill for Seismic Shockwaves. Gonna back away as Rizzler manages to get away, but diving a bit too deep. YeetOnDaNaeNae finding the kill. And then we see Reyhum using the safe abilities of Agni to get away. ACookieNamedJoe being ganked by Swagmaster, but it's not enough. Despite not having a pure escape, does find refuge with AMC. Yoda bombs coming out and stuns, bopped into the air, dropped down again, but not enough. 3-0 for Eclipse coming up in 12 minutes.
And with the beacon spawning, Seismic Shockwaves are in a position where they can look at this beacon with no contest, and that'll be the case. So beacon going the way of the Shockwaves, which will certainly help them. They could use that extra damage right now, especially with the way this game's been going. And to kind of try to slow things down and look at things at a micro level, this is the best call right here. Go for this Gold Fury and see if you can draw out a fight, because if ACookieNamedJoe contests this, it's going to be trouble.
Trying to steal it. Cookie throws down the
No way.
beads. Eclipse gets it.
God.
ACookieNamedJoe manages to steal it. Using the beads perfectly. Doesn't even get ruined. Gets it for free. Rent free in their heads. And that's exactly what Seismic Shockwaves needed. But they didn't have a ward there to tell him how close he was. Rizzler looking like a snack to Ganondad is going to decide better of it. Ganondad getting caught using Mystic Rush to get away. That was very unfortunate for Seismic Shockwaves. But they did everything, they did almost everything right, I should say. Because they took the beacon, they realized that no one was coming up to step up. So they went to Gold Fury. And I was about to chide Eclipse for not going to Gold Fury with the lead that they have. But ACookieNamedJoe steps up, gets it, and Seismic Shockwaves just drops it. And the bees! The bees!
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like a honeybee in spring landing on your car is less obvious than ACookieNamedJoe stealing that Gold Fury. That was ridiculous.
Looking for the stinger, doesn't find anyone, just stuck to by Gymkhana. ACookieNamedJoe's not getting out. Looking for the stuck in place. Here comes the Astral Barrage, killing ACookieNamedJoe.
That was a receipt.
That was a receipt, yeah, but like ACookieNamedJoe wasn't getting out of there, and he was just he was pushed up too far, no wards, and it took a while to kill him, despite having all think of how much they had to use just to kill him.
They would have used more. They were mad. They needed that.
Yeah, they definitely did. Swagmaster falling low. Yeet not letting him get away. Another kill for YeetOnDaNaeNae. 4-1. Almost 15 minutes. Divine Eclipse is really trying to bring this to game 3 and show that they deserve to be in contention for this. And Yeet steals the blue buff from Ganondad.
Wow.
What a nuisance. 4
That
levels up
jungle
on
lead.
the jungler. Yeah. Yeet is really exerting his will throughout this whole jungle. These charts aren't looking as crazy as last time.
The big thing here with the charts is that last time we saw how chaotic it was. I mean, the charts look broken. They look like my eyesight, you know? and this game, it's nowhere near that. It's consistent that Eclipse just has outmatched the Shockwaves, and there's nothing that they've been able to do to turn it around. Every time they try, they run into a situation like ACookieNamedJoe. And now with Yeet being so ahead and on a set, there's one-shot potential, and I don't know if the Shockwaves can handle it.
Looks like a big fight coming out. Gymkhana getting caught in the middle, running low. But here comes the passive. Do Eclipse commit? They do, and they find it. Looking for a second kill on Ganondad. TheCasualOne finding the kill. Swagmaster forced to dance to assert dominance and get away. The CC immunity and the heals are just too much. And Eclipse thinking better of it. But this Pyromancer's up, and it only looks like 2 are looking at it. But Eclipse finally thinks better to start this objective. Nene forcing out Reyhum so he can't pull a Joe. And Pyromancer's falling down. Redneck's falling low to it, but here comes Swagmaster. Can he confirm it? No. Eclipse gets the Pyromancer, and the bomb's sitting there. The bomb is sitting there. Anthony.
Come on, let's go.
There we go.
I had some faith for once. I really did. The objective to objective play has been really nice so far from Eclipse, and it's completely gotten the Shockwaves off balance. They have not figured out how they can respond to this so far. I think their current strategy is trying to not pick fights because the lead for jungle has gotten so out of control, and for solo, that there's not really a way they can stand and try to make a play happen. But now the Rizzler, you said he's looking like a snack. Is he a Lunchable?
Looks like it. Rizzler trying to get away. Not enough damage. Walks right through it and finds the sanctuary. Doesn't care. That's like the definition of cool guys don't look at explosions. That was perfect relic usage out of Rizzler. And perfect backflip kick to try to get out of the ultimate coming from Geb. Both teams are staring at each other.
Sorry.
What's got you all giggles?
I can't believe I called Rizzler a Lunchable.
He was looking like a little snack.
I'm trying to fathom what I said. I mean, you kind of, you're the one who kind of tight-roped me into it.
Yeah, you got it, because he was looking like a snack. There was a different phrase I was going to use there that I used myself, but I don't think it's appropriate.
Anyway,
Reyhum's
dying.
Falling to Reyhum. Reyhum gets blown up by CookieNamedJoe, and we see Eclipse really coming together to take this game away from Seismic Shockwaves. And it's just not looking too good. I don't think it's a call to pick up this Oni Fury, as there's 4 strong looking to steal it. TheCasualOne throwing out damage, but I don't think they're going to be able to push out 4 people. But here comes Yeet, ready to eat away, finding his own snacks, but thrown up into the air. Swagmaster's looking delicious, falls to TheCasualOne, and now he wants seconds, getting trying to find a meal is CookieNamedJoe. Switching to Gymkhana, who's gonna give him a bit of a food coma and put him to sleep. TheCasualOne's gonna bop Gymkhana on the head. And now this Oni Fury's looking a bit more free.
All right, I respect that.
I'm not done.
We deserved that team fight. We earned it. That's a huge goal for Eclipse. I mean, they're to actually look at the game, they're cementing the lead that they've built. I mentioned earlier the Shockwaves were kind of at a point where they couldn't fight. They had to respect the lead because you're just going to die. It's somehow gotten worse because at this point, Yeet can just one-shot everybody, essentially. Maybe the only exception... See, not even then, because with Prophetic Cloak and Gauntlet of Thebes, they're not fully stacked. The tankiest one is Gymkhana, and considering the level combined with the items... even then, it's a stretch to say that there'd be a long survival against this set. So Eclipse can just run the set of people, hold W, close their eyes, and probably get a penta at this rate.
So now we see Eclipse is definitely a lot more in the driver's seat than they were last time. Showing as they're trying to gank in. Ganondad and Swagmaster forced to use their CC immunities. Swagmaster falls down to Yeet. Trying to find a secondary kill, but thinking better of it. If anything, this is a Fire Giant prioritization, but looks like Pyromancer might be the call instead. This whole game we've seen Eclipse in the driver's seat. What do you think has been the big change that's allowed Eclipse to just kind of take this away? They have a huge lead compared to last game where it was just so tight and even.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem was the timidness that we talked about. It's really shown, and I'm actually surprised because I was right for once. It really did grow into something unsustainable for the Shockwaves, that they respected the timidness that they were showing too much. They trusted in it too much, and it led them to a really bad spot. I mean, this Pyromancer, it's like, oh, maybe ZakuZz has the snipes, but they let it go in time.
You're gonna leash it and pick it back up. ZakuZz can't find it. TheCasualOne forced into the sky to get away, but done his job. This T1's looking like its own type of deliciousness, falling down in a hot melt fondue, falling on ZakuZz, getting eaten up by Rizzler. Swagmaster and Ganondad are now trying to pose up to contest. They don't see Joe or Yeet, excuse me, coming from behind. Swagmaster now caught between two different people trying to get away. Manages to find some
Yeet.
space back into the dance. Yeet jumps in, looking for another meal. Finds it on Reyhum, thrown into the sky, falls down, is now hungry for more. Just in that Kingslayer, slicing away. The Aegis forcing on Yeet. Just can get teleported away, not tanking towers anymore. Swag finally falls to Casual. Falling asleep his own sleep coma is Gymkhana, falling down to ACookieNamedJoe. Slathering honey on that dessert, eating him down. Fondue Tower falling away. Gets its own kill.
Screenshot!
Redneck Yoda. Screenshot! Mom, get the screenshots! Record it! And now the tower will not fall despite it just being so low. Ultimate coming out from Rizzler does not find ZakuZz. Ganondad getting a little antsy, trying to find a return on anybody, but can't seem to find it. ACookieNamedJoe looks like he's overstaying his welcome. Ganondad knows it, is prepared to chase him down to the ends of the earth.
Doesn't have that blink though, so once ACookieNamedJoe gets a bit crazy, he should be okay. I gotta say, you're kind of making me jealous. I can't call through team fight now.
You know, the next one's all yours if you want to try it.
Oh, all right. I'll take that.
I'll tag you in. I'll tag you in on that one.
Yeah, just say go, 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 go.
Gotcha. I gotcha.
No need to even hide it. See, the problem is now I'm starving.
I went into the starving, dude.
I mean,
that's where it all came from.
I mean, like, if the Stygian beacon all of a sudden looks like a Pringles can, I've got a problem.
No, it's a birthday candle, dog.
A birthday candle? I'm not gonna eat a birthday candle.
Well, the cake
I'd rather
is
imagine like
the cake
I don't
is
know,
everybody sitting there. Look
sour
at that
cream and onion
delicious cake.
Pringles. Yeah. Oh, a ring pop. Now
Ooh,
we're talking.
Oh, thank you, Nooblet. Y'all didn't hear it, but Nooblet just gave us great advice with
like
the
a
ring
ring
pop.
pop.
I haven't had one of those in so long, man.
Oh, I used to
miss
have them
those.
after baseball games as a kid, and considering all I could do was strike out or strike somebody out, most of the time getting struck out, the ring pops were the only thing I could look forward to.
They were always good. I remember after church, too, if we were able to shut up enough and listen to the Bible long enough, we were able to get them. So, that's definitely it's definitely a good memory, man.
Yeah, nothing like
what
some
happened?
religion with your ring pops.
Ring pops, yeah. A little bit of sugar for your parents to deal with when you get home.
The three wise candy companies.
Exactly. Trying to ward out. We're in a bit of a ward battle right now, as we see both teams trying to poise up for this fire giant. A bit more defensive. Eclipse has their wards, but Seismic Shockwaves, not to be outdone, have their own to make sure they can avoid the ganks. Cooldown buff falling to Eclipse, but now Gymkhana is forced to back away. Nene diving in. Will he continue with this assault? No. Gymkhana's gonna back up as the Titans are here for the feast of their own. Falling down low. And now it seems that Eclipse will be taking their Titan first as a bit of an appetizer. Casual looking for a flank, but nobody's there. It's Seismic Shockwaves. This Titan's gonna fall. And Eclipse is gonna have a
3
full
minutes
health
splitting in the
Titan.
back camp currently.
Hey,
I like
it's the most optimal thing to do, okay?
The reason I'm going to mention it is I like the farming. You do need to farm, but if you're going to not commit to the Titan, you should be getting waves.
TheCasualOne being pulled into a fight, forced on that cotton candy cloud. And just observing, munching down on the food, healing up. Fire Giant's gonna be pulled, but there's no real commitment coming out. Looks like it's gonna be Pyromancer instead, as Seismic Shockwaves is now looking to feast or famine themselves. In comes TheCasualOne. Anthony, master of the feast, go!
Master of the feast, go. ACookieNamedJoe steps up. The Rizzler charges one up, but won't shoot it off, so the fight actually calms down for the time being, and the Shockwaves look to reset. They're just too afraid to take on the dinner. They don't. They don't want to host the family for Thanksgiving. They've said no 3 times. They don't have the space for it. But TheCasualOne, trying to make the space for it, goes in looking for a moon pie of his own, but can't quite find it. The 3-man stun does separate things, but up into the sky on the landing, the Oreo not split, lands quite fine. Charged up, shoots forward, finds a hit, does some damage, doesn't quite get the kill. No ring pop for you. Go back, study some more, crack open the Bible, take a seat on the bench, and wait for your turn at the ring pop stand.
I love it. I'm trying to think another something. Help me come up with a nickname for the fondue fire giant. There we go. All right. It was just fondue fire giant.
All right. I think we have two
fire
different
fondue giant. The fire fondue.
We have 2 different kinds of fat, because I was also looking at the fire giant trying to think of what kind of food maybe think of, and when you see that
fudge.
weird stretch it just did, that like,
Yeah.
oh, like I'm a little kitty cat big stretch, when it
Yeah.
leaned up and if you looked at the bottom of its kind of like it's like
There you
hip
go.
area,
Yeah.
it reminds me of, you know, those really gigantic gummy bears that some people get.
Oh,
that are
you
like,
mean like the
yeah,
5
like if you
pound
get it, you're
ones?
not even gonna eat it, because who would be dumb enough to try to sit down and eat one of those more than like a bite and say, this is too much for me? That's what it reminds me of. It's like one of those giant red gummy bears. You get it as a gift. Maybe you take a bite and you leave it in like the pantry. It's there for 2 years. You open it up and all of a sudden it looks like the Thing from John Carpenter.
growing a life of its own. I understand that. I thought the lava looked a little bit like hot cheese, and the F kind of fell out of my mouth. The fondue fire
The
giant.
nacho cheese Dorito fire giant pit.
Ganondad forced to use Mystic Rush to try to return damage. Oh, Astral Barrage coming out, but not gonna find a kill. There goes Rizzler getting the kill on Ganondad. TheCasualOne gets a kill on Reyhum, and Yoda manages to get away. TheCasualOne's now stuck between 2, but here comes the rest of the team looking for their own meal. But ACookieNamedJoe is sitting there just fighting back and forth, trying to get the last dessert off the plate with Swagmaster. But Yeet's gonna start with the pumpkin pie, and falling into his food coma goes Gymkhana.
The bomb!
Yeet's looking so low, falls down. Swagmaster finds another kill, but then falls to a cookie of his own. Gymkhana, now waking up from food coma, is looking to try to get away and barely manages to, missing all the hieroglyphic salts. Sans 1. Rizzler does not get the kill, and this fondue is free for the team. Feast away, lads. You definitely earned that one.
You know what you made me think of? When the bomb got dropped, it reminded me. It was like, no. Why would the bomb look like a marshmallow?
Like a burnt marshmallow, like a roasted marshmallow.
Oh, okay. A burnt marshmallow I could take maybe, but no, it reminds me of a hug, like the cheap juices that like you had more than one friend coming over, and since your mom doesn't like you very much, she stopped at Sam's Club and just picked up a bunch of hugs because they're like 30 cents and she doesn't consider your friends worth more than 30 cents of drinks.
Hey,
like,
it was toy little like, barrel ones, right?
Like forbid they go to the grocery store and get knockoff soda. No, you can have the juice that looks like it was wrung out from a dirty towel. But that's what it reminded me of, was those little hug bottles.
I remember when I was a kid, my grandpa used to have a shed, and he'd have a whole refrigerator full of like the Kool-Aid bottles, like where you like either like little plastic cheap ones, and you tear off the top little thing that looked weird. I don't know if you ever seen them. I barely remember what they were, but they were just so delicious. We're really getting off topic here. Ravelry falling for Eclipse.
There's not a lot to talk about here. I mean, the Shockwaves are basically like, all right, let's take it easy and hope they wipe at Fire Giant, and if not, we go to a game 3. What's the worst that can happen?
Luckily for Seismic Shockwaves, it's not an EFG. But in comes the blink with
That was
Yoda now
ambitious.
finding an ultimate. A little bit too much. Eyes bigger than their stomach. Here comes some sweet Agni bombs. Agni bombs coming out.
I was gonna say something before about you saying meal as your new like thinking phrase, but eyes bigger than their stomach goes hard. I'll give you that one.
And now we see that the T2 is falling down, and the Agni bomb's trying to put everybody to sleep. Here comes TheCasualOne initiating the feast. Gymkhana doesn't have the nap to save him now, and Casual's forced up on his cotton candy cloud, and not much damage was done to this Phoenix, and this little fire chicken is gonna stand up for a bit longer. No real value coming out of there besides that one tower. Rizzler is looking like a delicious little treat to the rest of Seismic Shockwaves, who is walking up on him. But here comes Yoda to push
This looks like
everyone
my middle school
back
dances.
off. Oh, what? Where it's just kind of like you got the guys on one side, girls on the other side.
Kinda. It looks like the middle school. It looks like the middle school dances where it got too crazy. So now the principal's on the floor. That's what it looks like. So now everybody's kind of like Cha-Cha Slide came on, but everybody's uncomfortable because your dean's in the middle with his greasy mustache yelling at everybody to stop
caught some people grinding a bit too close.
Yeah. So now he's standing in the middle, and everybody's kind of doing Cha-Cha Slide, but 6 feet apart, like pre-COVID.
Leaving space for Jesus, so they can get that ring pop later.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the ring pop, dude.
I mean, I'm breaking fourth wall again, but just so you know, I'm absolutely yelling over you in the next time this comes up because I got a banger that I was thinking of in the last team fight.
Feel free. It's all yours. I'll hand it right off. Hopefully it'll be a bit more of an
it's just one
Here we go, Master of the Feast, take it away.
And now in the back line, Ganondad goes crazy, slammed out Mystic Rush. Gymkhana barely able to get away. The Snipe gonna find SwagMaster, but not do too much damage. Now TheCasualOne getting aggressive. SwagMaster still in the midst of things, and Ganondad has to retreat. Now Reyhum doesn't want to be the next one dead. They're only 1 away from 3. Snipes come out from ZakuZz, but can't quite find a home yet. I know you want to hear me say the thing. I want to say the thing, but there's got to be a kill first, and there it is! On your tummy, Reyhum! It's tummy time! Open wide for the Gerber food!
And now, being spoon-fed another kill, Rizzler gets his own on Ganondad. TheCasualOne keeping SwagMaster away. Gymkhana being able to take another nap to get a second
Gerber
win, but it's not
babies,
going to be enough. The Gerber babies are taking it. There's a double kill for Rizzler.
Run it down!
Give me some formula. Baby want milkies. Give baby milkies as the Titan is falling, scrambling for help, being starved as all of Eclipse are just eating the food off of it. And come on.
Yes, Rizzler!
And there we go. SwagMaster gets his own little bite in, but YeetOnDaNaeNae gets the final piece of food and then takes a big chomp out of the Titan, bringing us to game 3. 24 for Eclipse, who have brought it back. Out of all these games I've casted, I don't think I've ever casted any Eclipse games for any league, and I gotta say, seeing that for the first time, it's amazing. Like these animations are just awesome. Great job for Eclipse for taking control of the Thanksgiving dinner, running it down, and filling themselves up on Seismic Shockwaves, really taking that game and looking like a completely different team than game 1.
Sorry, I didn't mean to not answer right away. I'm letting the teams know already that I'm sorry about the game 2. In our defense, I think Shockwaves checked out a bit early. We talked about the timid. The timid kind of turned into not a fear,
Feeding
but just,
frenzy.
Yeah, feeling uncomfortable. Yeet was just too strong too early, and then Casual got too strong, and then YeetOnDaNaeNae was dealing damage. We talked about how far Rizzler could stand away. It was just a bad combination, and the Shockwaves, they couldn't find anything crazy to find a new entrance, and they just, I think internally, honestly, we're probably just like, let's just try to play for deicide. Let's play it safe. Let's play it Titan, and if it fails, we still have a game 3, and that's not the worst mindset ever, especially because those games where you try to fight back and you try to fight back, and even if you do come back a bit, if you can't win, they're really deteriorating to a mindset. So maybe it was a good call, and it did lead to a strong game for Eclipse. And I don't expect either team comp to be run back because I'm sure the Shockwaves don't want to see Set, and I'm pretty confident that they don't want to run back some of their picks, maybe that Kumbhakarna or even that Shiva, who was a bit unimpactful.
So coming into game 3, what do you want to see out of either team? Because the first game definitely seemed a bit closer. It was like a bloodbath, like we said. That second game was a bit more dominant for Eclipse. So what do you want to see coming out of both teams into this game 3?
I want to see the strengths that we saw from Eclipse, and that which realistically, before we did get off the rails, it was the strength of being able to go objective to objective and to have pacing of the team fights and to really understand what you needed to do to control the other team and the decisions that they'd make. They knew every time where they needed to position. They knew how the Shockwaves were going to contest objectives, where they were going to send their jungler, and they were able to play clean around it. The Shockwave strength to me in game one was being able to force the issue in fights they were losing, and by sheer will, they were reworking the fights and they were forcing Eclipse to reposition and reset constantly and putting themselves in a spot where they could win. I want to see that come back.
I definitely think Eclipse has the ability to really take this away, and it's definitely a really different showing from Seismic Shockwaves in that second game. But I think it definitely has to do with what you said, where the timidness for one team can kind of really be their downfall as the other team just starts getting rolling. And I think the big turning point for that timidness was when Seismic Shockwaves lost that Gold Fury to ACookieNamedJoe. Because
Yeah, yeah, I
they
agree.
they'd taken a bad fight, but it was a very strategic going to the Gold Fury, and then all of a sudden a a bee on honey stings it, and that's the Gold Fury fell to a bee, right? So that's got to be a bit of a bit of a breaker. Like you just you're just sitting there rolling your eyes, like, oh, what's gonna happen now? So you're
Mhm.
playing a bit more safe. You want to try to steal another thing from them, but you can't do it. And I think that's kind of what happened. Was that Gold Fury was a bit of a spirit breaker for the Seismic Shockwaves and kind of put them on a back foot that they could never really recover from. But I think they definitely have a lot of chance in this game three, because when it's a whole new game, it's a whole new mentals, right? Like you're not sitting there, you don't have to worry about bringing anything back. You know how we're going to salvage this. No, it's completely fresh. You're starting from zero. The game essentially it's tied, so it's 0-0 right now. Just wipe it from your memory and start fresh. And I think it's a lot easier than trying to bring back a bad game.
I would agree with that completely. And I would say that what tends to happen after games like that, at least from every time I've cast a game where there, especially if it's in the middle of a set, where there's a real stomp like that, is the team that suffers the stomp, for lack of better phrasing, they'll kind of go to a mixture of comfort and meta, and they'll really grab things they're comfortable on that even if they are not playing at the best mentality or to the best of their ability, just their inherent comfort on the god and how used they are to playing it will stand through and carry them through. So I'm looking for the Shockwaves to pick up things like that. I mentioned a lot of it in game one. I talked a lot about how I was accustomed to seeing Reyhum on characters like Hell and the Morrigan, as we see the Hell actually get banned out. And ZakuZz seemed really comfortable in Rama, so bring things like that back. And Gymkhana looked really, really comfortable on that Ganesh game one. I've also seen Gymkhana play very well on characters like Maui, despite them being out of meta. And usually, when you can play those characters, there's a good Athena there. So grab things like that, just play a comfortable game, don't get too crazy, and see where it takes you.
I think that Eclipse definitely should have prioritized the Ganesh a bit more coming to
I will
bans,
leave
because I think we
standing
really
no
saw
barrier to our
Gymkhana
success.
really run away with a whole bunch, able to keep people in place for so long. And then Dharmic Pillars being as damaging and as protection shredding as it is, opened a lot for the Seismic Shockwaves. I'm very curious to see the way this goes, because I think Seismic Shockwaves could definitely pick up the Odin again. And I think, despite, like you're saying, the lack of damage, I think there's a lot of utility out of that Odin. It's something Eclipse really should be worried about. So going into this game, if you're not going to ban Odin, maybe kind of try to think of ways to deal with Odin. Maybe seeing a Khepri of its own, or you could even go a Yamoja wouldn't be
Yeah,
too
you're really on
bad.
that. I was gonna say you're really on that Kepri train.
Well, all right. So I think when the opposing team has a set, Khepri is amazing, especially when they when they have a set and a lot and a AMC, because that's a lot of single target damage, right? So the set
Sure.
ults,
Yeah, I
the
gotcha.
AMC ults, they die, but all of a sudden Khepri just brings them back, and that's all the ults down, and your teammate's still up with possibly their ult too
Your
to swing the
chances
thing.
to win the
So I
fight
think
have
when you
diminished.
have a lot of lack of AoE, like even Thoth, right? Like yeah, he's got AoE, but it's a lot of lines, right? So it's mostly gonna be targeted by one person, unless you're sitting there lining up for a collateral. You can kind of pick out who they're going to go for. So the Khepri definitely could have possibly saved a bit more when it came to that stuff, right? So if they're if three people are diving on one person, or you see a lot being committed to one person, there you go, Kepriel. Now your teammate's alive again. So I definitely think the Kumbhakarna was a bit ambitious to say the least. I think a Kepriel would have done better because there was just a lot of single target coming out of Eclipse there.
I like it. I like where the head's at. I do like the run back at the Geb. I like that a lot here. I
They
think,
got a lot of value out of it, yeah.
yeah, it was, you couldn't really understate how much value they got. I mean, if an AMC is able to frontline just because you have a Geb, then then things are clicking. I do like the Mulan pickup. Mulan, not a character we're seeing a lot of, despite not being bad, I would say, at all. Especially if Sun was here, another one of our casters, somebody who really sings the praises of that character in the current, in any meta for that matter. But I like it especially with how TheCasualOne and SwagMaster have been
Our
playing out their
deeds
lanes. We
shall be
haven't seen a lot
written
of
in
solo
lead.
kills, but we've seen a lot of fighting, and we've seen them both get very close to death. And I think if that's how you're fighting, I think Mulan really can benefit you. And going against a Guan Yu, where you can cancel out the Tel Assault, that's a pretty nice combo.
My victory shall be
Well, I
sweeter
found a lot
than
of value out of the Guan Yu game one because just the ability for the CC immunity to run away, the heals, the Tail Assault, Shred and Protections, and then the giant stun coming out of the cavalry charge is just, it sets up a lot. I know for myself, Guan Yu has helped me a lot to keep my team in the game, helped me to keep myself in the game, and also set up a lot for my team. So Guan Yu's never, when he's not necessarily exactly meta, he's never really a bad pick. But kind of the Eclipse, I love seeing that Odin ban because Mulan, who relies on a bunch of heals, and the AMC are definitely susceptible for the Odin. So it's nice to see them learning what their team comp is really lacking from, with the Geb too. So to learn from game one not to let Ganondad back on that Odin is just huge.
A real focus on Reyhum's Morgan Le Fay from Eclipse, not a surprise there. A character that Reyhum is so good on that a lot of, I don't think we've seen Reyhum be able to play it since like mid season 2 was the last time we saw it get played from Reyhum and SDL. Usually a ban that sneaks through. We usually see it in the second phase against teams that Reyhum is on, which is something I've always taken note of. But regardless, still worth keeping an eye on. And a mid laner still needed for Eclipse because I don't expect AMC to go mid. I know you asked me that in game 2. I stand by that here. I also don't know if it's in the Rizzler's God pool. Rizzler does have an ADC God pool, but playing ADCs in mid is already different than playing ADCs in carry. And AMC is a character who thrives off lane, in my opinion, in solo and then mid. Maybe not in current meta. I could easily be persuaded to mid being over solo, but I quite like it
That may
in
be
solo.
your undoing.
So knowing that the Shockwaves have to deal with still an option in mid, and Rizzler played Poseidon in game number 1, not banned out, and Thoth in game number 2, not banned out here, the options for Eclipse are essentially limitless.
I definitely think that AMC is going to way of ACookieNamedJoe. We saw how capable he was in game 2, especially into a Kumbhakarna who could keep AMC still without any escape. Ganesh can get the stun off, but he doesn't have the root or the mesmerize or the knockup that the Kumbhakarna had to really keep ACookieNamedJoe in one spot. So with a combination of that Geb shield, I think Cookie's gonna really kind of fry here. He's shown that he can really take AMC into the dual lane and do well. So I think he has a possibility, but Camazotz is definitely gonna make that a bit sketchy because if you can play Camazotz right, you stick to a target and they blow up.
I agree. I hate Camazotz. I hate playing against Camazotz because it's one of those characters. It reminds me of original Loki, where it's like
Your
it's not the
time
best
has
character,
come.
but it still sucks to play against because you're just dying on cooldown.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
because they get the blink, the hop, the bats, a lot of damage, and then the bat out of hell, which
yeah,
they can start tearing you apart where you can't really do anything about it until Camazotz lands back down. So it's one of those things where you just gotta pray you catch him off because if he's running the show, he's
Face
running
the
the show.
bitter winds of Niflheim!
Morgan lock in for Reyhum, not surprising there, but ooh,
Oh,
so that Heimdallr is the Rizzler. I can almost guarantee you that is one of Rizzler's most commonly played characters in the SDL, and very, very good Heimdallr as well. We've seen Rizzler play that Heimdallr up to godlike talent and to play well on it, usually in carry role. But knowing that the Rizzler could be jungle, could be mid, could be carry at any time, and a character like Heimdallr who can certainly play anywhere, I really like this pick. I think it messed with the draft of the Shockwaves. I think it brings comfort for the Rizzler, and it brings a lot of damage for Eclipse. The one problem that is there, that is always a striking problem, is that's for physical. Your magical damage
Yeah.
is Geb, and I mean, I'm sorry to Hindu mans out there, but Geb's damage is not the most impressive in the world. So
Especially if you're going in support too.
yeah, there is a world where Seismic Shockwaves can just build enough physical defense to not care about this draft of Eclipse, but Eclipse does so much damage that it might not matter.
I would definitely like to see maybe an Ao Kwang in jungle or something, or maybe a bit more of a magical soul laner, but we'll see how well Seismic Shockwaves can either secure this or if Eclipse can get an upset. So we'll see you into game 3. Hello and welcome, SDL compatriots, to Game 3, Divine Division, Seismic Shockwaves versus Eclipse. And now we'll see if either team can really take it away and win the set. Will we find a theme for this game? Who will knows? Time will tell. I'm little cog champ Gearchief here with AnthonyMalum. Let's see it into the bloodshed.
I certainly hope that this game is interest gauging enough for us to not have to go, into the bakery essentially. But I do think that both of these teams have shown both in game 1 and game 2 that there is competitiveness there. I mean, the Shockwaves had a really, really good game 1, and Eclipse had an obviously dominant game 2. And like we've talked about a couple of times, they're both middle of the pack teams right now in Divine, but they're not separated by that much. It's not a blowout in the division by any means. So at any point, these teams can play up, they can play down. There's so many factors that go into it that I really think there's a world where Shockwaves can put up a significant fight here and make game 2 feel like kind of feel out of place.
I think it's really definitely anybody's game here. Just depends who can really take control and not worry too much or not play too timid. YeetOnDaNaeNae is getting poked out. Ganondad hopping back. The Rizzler is just throwing abilities and axes. Ganondad falling low. Yeet's cooldowns are gonna be up. Here comes the silence, but it's not enough. And I think maybe if Rizzler went the way of the horn instead of the crystals, maybe they would have had the damage. But it's also nice to be able to have the auto cancel that comes out of those crystals. Reyhum taking damage. Here comes the slash. Nene gets stunned. Beads used. Finds the kill. Blows the eardrums out of Reyhum. Swan Song coming out. YeetOnDaNaeNae gets first blood.
I gotta say, I understand where the Rizzler's coming from. I mean, when you play any character that has an escape that you're supposed to take level 2, actually gonna hang on against Ganondad, gonna jump on YeetOnDaNaeNae and find the kill and has a pool to drink out of 2. Rizzler with very low mana, Ganondad gonna walk away. But just to finish that, Rizzler taking crystals level 2, that's tough, but if you don't take your escape level 2, you're probably gonna die level 2. If you take your escape level 2, then you're probably not gonna need it. It's just how Smite works. It's just the luck of the draw.
I totally forgot it was an escape despite having Diamond on Heimdall because Rizzler was just using it so confidently for those auto cancels. So I completely forgot the ability because he wasn't really using them to set himself up to escape. He was just being very aggressive with them, and we really saw that when it came to First Blood for Yeet, as a lot of the damage that was thrown out. But speaking of damage, Gymkhana's falling low. Cookie getting all of his snipes in. Ooh. Redneck Yoda gets body blocked by ZakuZz. Nice. Who's now playing the part of support for his support. ACookieNamedJoe throwing out the beads and getting some nice snipe autos in there, forcing teammates back underneath the tower, allowing Yeet to get the shield buff without much problems.
That was a really nice play from ZakuZz. I can't let that go understated. But now purple buff invade from Eclipse. Ganondad trying to contest.
Ganondad does not get it. It falls the way of Eclipse. looking to continue to fight, but dropping low. Ganondad getting some health out of those bats, but thinks better of it. Eclipse is really starting to take this advantage to their advantage. As YeetOnDaNaeNae looks for a second invade, Ganondad not content to let it go, but ends up doing so anyway. Yeet finds another steal, and this might start cascading if Seismic Shockwaves can't get a handle on that green and that purple buff. Yeet is really setting Eclipse up well.
And they need another strong early start. That was their strength in game number 2, and if they can take advantage of that, the Shockwaves will have a hard time responding. We saw that in game number 2 as well, that they don't want to play from behind, which, I mean, who does, realistically? But they do need to kind of find something here if they find themselves in that same scenario. Now, in this mid lane matchup between the Morgan and Heim, as you can see, Reyhum has an advantage early.
A B saved from a trip to Niflheim and Muspelheim. There's the usefulness of the bat out of hell, but it caught Reyhum in a bad spot. Able to get away, invisibility so strong, forcing Rizzler back, but here comes another bat. Ganondad blinking a screech and a hop and a bite. Doesn't find it! Takes a lot of damage. Rizzler looking low, but through the walls comes Yeet, finding the kill on Ganondad. Unfortunate. That was the blink and the screech. I thought it would be enough. The bats missed, the hop missed, and Ganondad just took too much damage from the tower. Yeet is really starting to pull away.
Yeah, Ganondad punching air right now. This unlucky for sure. Rizzler did have really nice steps there, read the moment well, played it calm, and was able to respond well to Ganondad diving under the tower. What I was going to say was what happened. I was going to say that Reyhum should have the advantage in a fight for this first little bit here, considering Rizzlers didn't go Bluestone or anything like that. But now SwagMaster is okay, is able to get away. Rizzler didn't go Bluestone, so the damage was lacking there. So Reyhum just kind of had a slight advantage in that first few levels in Wave, but I would say it's probably already gone, so no longer worth considering. It just mattered for that fight we just saw.
A bit surprised that Rizzler opted more for the sustain, but I guess that's what you kind of gotta do when you're forcing it against a Morgan.
It'll work out late.
And Kamazots, who's looking to turn the tides. TheCasualOne's now finding themselves stuck between two, forced to use the ultimate. Ganondad dodges everything but falls low. Bat out of hell, is it enough? Ganondad seems to think not and decides to fall away. Oh no, here comes YeetOnDaNaeNae getting a kill on Ganondad and a double kill on SwagMaster. That is 4 kills going the way of YeetOnDaNaeNae. Seismic Shockwaves, however, don't manage to get a break. Sent off to a trip to Muspelheim, then Niflheim, then the Grayscale. Rizzler gets a kill onto Reyhum. Unfortunate. Seismic Shockwaves are just on the back foot.
Oh boy, that
yeah, that's unfortunate.
That does not set up well for Shockwaves. That what just happened is what I have been trying to allude that Shockwaves needed to avoid. The charts tell the story for you. A gold lead like that, what that means at this stage of a game is exactly what you're seeing for Yeet. You can just roam the map freely. You can make plays where you want to make plays and do what you want. And considering that's what cost the Shockwaves game number 2, that's terribly, terribly foreboding here for the Shockwaves. And Eclipse now in a great spot.
Reyhum, welcome back to lane, buddy, as he's now got no health to speak of. YeetOnDaNaeNae pushing out Ganondad as well, who was able to confirm his team's green buff. Yoda not letting Reyhum off the hook easy. Gonna just throw out some damage on Gymkhana. I would like to see a possible Gold Fury pull, but I think the levels might not be high enough. Shockwave's a bit scrambling right now, trying to find anything. I think I gotta say, though, I think it really started falling when Ganondad tried the blink after on Rizzler after Reyhum ulted, because Ganondad was still level 4. I think Ganondad was level 5. Then it would have been a confirmed kill easily because we saw how low Rizzler was. So I think the big issue is Ganondad got a bit too ambitious, like the opposite of that timid problem we were talking about. And I think that just kind of started cascading, and Ganondad's just trying to find anything in any lane. Like, you try to go in the solo lane, but then there goes Nene. And it just seems that Ganon can't catch a break. He was a bit too aggressive early, and now just kind of being punished for it.
And the lead has not helped at all either, because you can't look to make plays, you can't look to box, nothing like that. Now Reyhum in some trouble, but Gymkhana for the stoppage, and now Reyhum just trying to get away.
Reyhum's just stuck on less than 200 health for this entire game. I think every time he gets back to lane, he gets sent right back to the fountain, and Reyhum just can't catch a break. Especially with a lot of the damage from the Morgan, just with that triangle too, is just so... You gotta get up close. And with the big cone coming out from Heimdall to reveal anytime that they go invisible, that Reyhum goes invisible, it's just, they can't really get any value of it, or they can't really get that confirmation of the stun, and those axes are just hitting like trucks. And
yeah, that's a good point, actually, the counter that Heimdall has for Morgan, but now some trouble breaking out from Shockwaves.
yeah, but we also got to remember, Heimdall can see her invisible for a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That was a good pick there from
yep,
the Rizzler.
that too. So it doubles down with the comfort pick, as well as being able to see which way she's going when it comes to the passive. I don't know if the sword reveals her when she's invisible, but if it did, that's definitely more. ACookieNamedJoe using the beads to negate the slow. Ganondad really trying to go in there. Got a tower shot on his back. Here's 2 for your troubles. Make it a third. Ganondad's aggressiveness is starting to cost him. Doesn't find the kill on ACookieNamedJoe. He's using the beats to keep him in place. Dark Pillars come out, but it's not enough. Reyhum's now stuck between 2, ACookieNamedJoe and Yoda, as Gymkhana's being chased down by Rizzler and Yeet. Yeet gets another kill to pad his stats as Gymkhana falls. And this looks like there's going to be 4, and this might be definitely a Gold Fury pick up, as you got 2 ADCs on top of this, and Yeet is just causing problems. ZakuZz is falling low. Go to the sky. Cannot. Yeet is on a rampage, and this Gold Fury is looking pretty rewarding right now, as you got 2 ADCs to bounce this back and forth.
That's one of the best parts about this team comp from Eclipse. Everybody will say it when they see 2 ADCs. The objective burn is just so good. And Yeet is helping out because, I mean, doing numbers right now. And, you know, the last time we were showing the charts, it was 2,500. Now it's 5,000 and 5.5 for experience. That's terrible for the Shockwaves, to put it lightly, especially because so much of that lead is in jungle, and the majority of the rest of it is in ADC, but it's kind of spread to everybody, which is just awful for Shockwaves to deal with, because it makes it impossible to play to any of your strengths. You have to play to all of your weaknesses, which is passive play. How many passive the Morgans and passive Camazotz are able to win games? It's very few and far between.
That is true. And Ganondad's definitely suffering from it. I think he tried to get aggressive a bit too early, and I think that one tower dive that he had can be really contributed to it. SwagMaster falling. The arrow does not find him, managing to squeak away with his health intact in his life. Gymkhana looking to try to stand up and defend this blue for his soul in it, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Dark Pillars to try to get the steal, and it does! As Rizzler finds another kill onto Reyhum.
He's taking the 1v2.
And yeah, there goes Ganondad going for a trip. Up in the bat out of hell. Rizzler cannot get away in time. And Ganondad does get the kill on Rizzler. I don't think there was much of a shutdown because Rizzler did not hit 3. However, that's a big boost for Ganondad, who might start getting wind in his sail.
That was almost perfectly played. If Rizzler got off that teleport between the crystals, that it probably could have turned into a double kill in the 1v2. But nicely played regardless, and it worked out good for Ganondad, who really needed to get a kill on the board there. ACookieNamedJoe really sprinting towards ZakuZz there, trying to take a fight. No interest from ZakuZz. Now, with 12 minutes here, Beacon being so easy, the next things that I'm looking for is Shockwaves need to stop the bleeding, and they gotta do it quickly. They cannot afford this. They can't afford Yeet diving on ZakuZz. Ganondad here for help.
Yeet getting a little too ambitious. Can't find the shelter of the wall. Now ACookieNamedJoe is out of place. Ganondad getting hungry. Blood in the water. Reyhum coming in. Transformed to the Guan Yu. Beads out by Joe, who's just running away. How is he getting away with this? He's just an AMC fighting for his life under the T1. But enough was committed, and Ganondad finds the kill on ACookieNamedJoe. But here comes the reinforcements. Yoda, big stun. Ganondad gonna, not Ganondad, excuse me. It's gonna be Gymkhana falling down. The G's are just messing with my head. Rizzler's looking at Ganondad, however, trying to find a little bit payback for that kill that Ganondad had gotten earlier. But gonna opt away. Reyhum's the new target. Too low, just enough. But here's Yoda. Can the knock-up do enough? Just gonna keep him away. ZakuZz is now stuck in a rock and a hard place. But here comes SwagMaster. A nasty teleport. Trying to come and save his ADC. Can he do it? Yes, he can. Rizzler is now forced back, but the crystal tech is huge. Manages to go back and make SwagMaster kind of go back and backtrack a little bit. Here comes the ultimate, the stun out, negated with the shield. SwagMaster is now looking a bit low, and Yeet is here to cause havoc. A dash and a slash gets the kill. Yeet gets a kill on SwagMaster. Sent on a vacation goes Ganondad, trying to now get out on air back to get away for some safety, and it seems like his own airline was able to save him. Gold Fury is now being looked up as it has gone primal, being now bounced between two ADCs yet again, and with a support to take it. YeetOnDaNaeNae is causing ZakuZz to rethink everything. It's now looking like it's just getting low. Gymkhana's trying to steal it. Primal Fury is up, but who will get it? Eclipse does secure it. Yeet is now in a bad spot as Reyhum is full health. No one will die for it, however, and Eclipse just makes this lead just keep growing.
All right, there's two things I want to point out. I gave a lot of credit to Rizzler for some really nice plays in a 1v2, but that crystal was really unlucky. I mean, that was the equivalent of hiding under your blanket to hide from a monster under your bed. And Eclipse got a
crystal tech.
Eclipse got a really good pyromancer. They understood that the shockwaves were really going to the end of the earth to try to pick up Rizzler and Redneck Yoda, and TheCasualOne and ACookieNamedJoe went over the pyro and they got it for free. They took their time with it. They barely used cooldowns because their mana wasn't even going down on it, which was a really good pickup for them there, and kind of made that ring around the rosy on the left side of the map worth it. And that's really important because look what it's done, the gold lead gear.
So you're telling me that they got pyromancer, right? Did they use the bomb, or did I not? Because I don't see it in any of their inventories. Do we have to have a
they may have used it on tier 1. Was tier 1 that low before? I'm not entirely sure. But
you know what? I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt instead of using it on tier 1.
The gold is worth it regardless of what we missed there. But I do also hate bombs not getting picked up, so I'm gonna also give them the benefit of the doubt.
I would like to, or maybe they used it to try to confirm Gold Fury, just a bit more gold anyway. So I will say, Seismic Shockwaves has definitely managed to keep it a bit closer. It's not really running away like it was game 1. Ganondad being caught out, the only escape besides the ultimate. Here comes the bat out of hell as Gymkhana is forced to use the Dharmic Pillars to save his jungler. And now Eclipse is just kind of left standing in the Gold Fury pit, not knowing what to do. So, game 3, and it's getting a bit out of hand for Seismic Shockwaves. Rizzler is now trying to send Ganondad away, caught in a bad spot. Here comes the Crystal Tech, and he's gone. So safe. The beads allowing him to use the crystal uninterrupted. And now before I was interrupted, I was going to ask you, it's a bit close. It's closer than I thought, but hold that thought. Gymkhana is getting caught. Pulled in, dropping to Rizzler, falls down. 17 minutes, it's 4-11. This T2 is not looking long for this world. So, let me finish this thought before they start fighting again. What do you think Seismic Shockwaves needs to do at this point?
They got to play the kind of defense they were considering last time, but they got to do it more effectively. They got to do it more aggressively. Ganondad getting picked out won't be the answer there.
Oh, Ganondad falls down. ZakuZz finding a return kill on Rizzler, but he's looking pretty low. Falls down. YeetOnDaNaeNae getting another kill. The Sanctuary's not going to be enough for Reyhum, who I thought was Ganondad. And now he falls to ACookieNamedJoe. Oh no, this Phoenix is looking like it's going to be the next target. SwagMaster hopping in to make Eclipse rethink it. TheCasualOne missing and roping himself into the Phoenix. But good good ups from Swagmaster, forcing everyone away and not allowing him to take advantage of that bird. And it's just cascading for Seismic Shockwaves right now. I think it's a complete different game than that game one. Game one, they seemed so collected and together. Like they had a plan, they're a team, they're gonna do it together, and they execute it. Now it's the exact opposite. Ganondad's just jumping into 4 people, trying to get the damage, and he's not Odin anymore. And
giving the respect to ignore game 2, I completely agree with you, because everything for Seismic Shockwaves here, they really needed to get online. I mean, early would have been great having a KamZaZ, but by mid game they needed to be online. And right now they're not in as bad of a spot in game 2, which again, ignoring game 2 because it certainly was one of those games. But this time they're still in need to sit back and farm. And Eclipse know they can't let them farm, and that's where the big problem's coming from. Because look at Reyhum and Gymkhana. They're pushed up to mid by Beacon just to farm, and they could die for it.
Ganondad looking to get aggressive on ACookieNamedJoe. Bad out of hell, forced up. Aegis to save himself. Joe's gonna run away, but now Ganondad is looking like it's stuck. And Yoda catches up, but here comes the hop, managing to dodge the arrow and the earthquake. Ganondad gonna get out by the skin of his little bat wings. And now all of Seismic Shockwaves is kind of forced away as his Oni Fury is being looked at by Eclipse to ever expand this 10k gold lead. Teleport in by Swagmaster, getting pushed out by Yeet, not being outdone damage-wise, but gonna think better. Astral Barrage does not drop to get the confirmation onto the gold fear. It will fall to Eclipse. Diving in goes TheCasualOne to cause some disruption. Everyone on Shockwaves is getting low. Joe finds a kill onto Gymkhana. Yeet finds a kill on Reyhum. And with his bird so exposed, I don't know what's going to happen here. Swag gets pulled back by a nicely sniped arrow, but manages to get away using the knock-up immunity from the Talo Assault. And now Eclipse is going to apparently posture up for Fire Giant. I don't know if I completely support this. I think the Phoenix would have been a good call, but the waves are pushed up a bit, so maybe Fire Giant is a bit safer here. I can't necessarily fault them for doing it, but if they're going to do it, they're not really positioned. That is Rizzler, isn't it? He's just swinging. He's just swinging. Swing away, Rizzler. Swing away.
He's risen on all 4 of them.
Oh, the Riz! Creating the space, he manages to... I will say, the one thing he did was cause enough chaos that the whole team had to... They jumped on him, right? So they didn't even think about going to Fire Giant. And I don't think you really needed that many people to kill him or even acknowledge him. I think the Fire Giant should have been the main objective. Unfortunately, Rizzler's not going to have that, but you still have it on Joe. So I think this is definitely a good thing for Eclipse as they really start pulling away.
Yeah, Eclipse is so good at holding on to their leads and growing them further. I'm really impressed by it. And Shockwaves, for me, I think what I'm starting to learn is their problem is farming from behind. I know I mentioned it a bit before, but I think that's actually a problem that they've got. If there was one thing, and you know, there's plenty of time to come back in this game, but there's one thing I'd look at in VOD reviews. It's what can we do if we fall this far behind? How can we adjust our plans to farm safely to keep ourselves involved?
I think it's definitely, you got to be careful of the invades, because we saw a lot of the invades coming out of the purple and the green early, so they couldn't really get the XP early, which allowed Eclipse to kind of roll. And I know what we're saying early, and you're saying trying to farm from behind, but definitely that's something you want to kind of look out for, because the best way to kind of deal from being behind is to not be behind. You know what I'm saying? Reyhum taking a lot of damage. The horn forcing him out. Can't get away. There goes a kill on a Reyhum. ZakuZz falls to Nene. Gymkhana falls to Redneck. And now Ganondad is left to defend this Phoenix by himself. Swagmaster trying to get in. But Fire Giant is now around the belts of Eclipse. There's no distraction. All the damage coming out from Ganondad. He not going to let him go without a fight. Both ultimates not really finding anything. Ganondad hops up into the air. Take a trip there, Swagmaster. Tell us what it is when you get back. Has that Yelp review. It doesn't look too positive as Rizzler gets the kill. 2 birds down and only 1 person to defend. I think they could really win it here, but I guess with the timers so low, they're gonna opt for a bit of a smarter play and take that gold and finish building up and take this lead to an end.
At this point, it's an easy diagram here. I mean, push up with the Titan and end the game. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. You've got a pyro bomb. You got a pyro bomb.
Pick up.
There you go. CasualOne's got a pyro bomb for the push. This is, and it's even going to the lane where you haven't gotten the tower, haven't gotten the Phoenix. There's no reason that Eclipse shouldn't completely group on this Titan and force the issue there and make Seismic Shockwaves have to decide, do they want to fight on the Titan? Do they want to defend the fire minions and force them into a spot they don't want to be in? There's no reason not to do that.
This is definitely tight, but this is definitely tight because you have fire minions coming from 2 lanes, and if you don't respect the Titan, we've seen how much that can do. I think it was Shockwaves who took their Titan essentially to the Titan pit with just little low health, and it just was a great impact. And you gotta respect it, but you also gotta respect the fire minions. And the big issue is, how do we do that appropriately? But unfortunately, you're not gonna have Ganondad to help him out. YeetOnDaNaeNae just going to make him disappear. And Rizzler getting his Riz going. Reyhum's looking a little worse for wear. Here comes SwagMaster. Rizzler is now stuck. There's 3 people looking at him. Can he get the crystal tech? And he gets it. It's good. Going all the way to mid lane.
That Aegis was so good.
Yep. Yeah. It's crazy the things you could do with Heimdall if you just pop an Aegis at the beads at the same time, because you just get away scot-free. Titan's not even there, but this T2 is gonna fall. Gymkhana causing Casual to push away, but it looks like the rest of Seismic Shockwaves pushed underneath tower. Titan's not even here, and the tower's fallen, and you have fire minions pouring into the Titan pit.
This is what
Here
I was hoping
come
for.
the Winions, and now it's just, they didn't deal with anything. They didn't push up the fire minions. They didn't contest the Titan. Now all 3 lanes are just being pushed down, and Seismic Shockwaves doesn't have much of an opportunity here. Here it comes, the engage. SwagMaster trying to hop into the horse to get himself some space. So much damage popping out. Finds a kill on ACookieNamedJoe. Yeet finds a kill on Gymkhana.
He snipes.
Redneck so low, but Casual is 2, falls down. ZakuZz gets the snipes. And now Rizzler gets the kill and a nice dash on top of ZakuZz. And he's just throwing them axes. ZakuZz gets a nice Aegis out and can't get the kill. Rizzler falls to Ganondad. And despite having a bit of an issue now, they're managed to take this back. The Titan is still fighting the Titan and fire minions. But if anything, this is Seismic Shockwave's opportunity to start farming back up.
Wow.
That was a crazy fight.
You know, I remember I talked way earlier about how you don't want to be in a situation where you have to defend, and then I think I even talked about that in game 2, where you don't want to be in a situation where you have an amazing defense, but you're in such a bad spot. It feels like you still already lost the game. That's kind of where they're at now, but the problem is, when I talked about that in game 2, that was game 2. This is game 3. So they have no choice, essentially, but to fight this out and to do what they can. Sure, they know they can kill them. Yes, they're going to have 2 Phoenixes up. Those Phoenixes are going to be very low. Eclipse has 2 ADCs. They've actually got one of the Rizzler's crystals in the base if they wanted to get really funky with things. The Shockwaves have... I mean, this is more than an uphill battle, but this is a disaster scenario, and the only chance they've got is if they can somehow delay the fight to not start in the throne room, get Eclipse low, and deicide before Eclipse can start on the Titan in the throne room.
Seismic Shockwaves definitely got a deicide in that last fight, but it definitely didn't feel like they won it, because you saw Eclipse really get that other Phoenix, and now they have position on Fire Giant. They all have Fire Giant. The Titan's weak. The Phoenixes don't look long for this world. So, despite getting decided, I think Eclipse kind of came up ahead on that one. That Titan took a lot of damage from the fire minions and the Titan itself. If they played a bit more smartly, they could have won. But I think at that point, you gotta kind of risk it. You're ahead pretty hard. You got fire minions pouring from every lane, so you kind of just send it sometimes. and I'd like to see them really take advantage of the weak Phoenixes that they have here. And I think it's very smart to opt not to go for this Gold Fury. I think it's a bit of a bait because you're allowing those Phoenixes to get a bit more healthy. And we've seen that Seismic Shockwaves can really put up a good Phoenix defense. So to let that Phoenix get any more healthy is just going to be, it's just playing with fire. Looking to engage. Yoda goes in. Here comes the ult from Yeet. Swagmaster in the back line, but getting so low. Falling down to ACookieNamedJoe. Dharmic Pillars doesn't trap anyone long enough. This Phoenix is not being attacked. As we see that Eclipse is going more for kills. Finally, the Phoenix falls, but they lose their support. Both supports, no, support is up for Seismic Shockwaves. The solo is down. And now we got Winions coming in from right lane. And it's just constant chip damage on chip damage for this poor Titan. And honestly, Eclipse don't even need to enter the throne room. They just need to keep Seismic Shockwaves distracted.
Yeah, speaking as an ADC who plays ADC with 2 wooden eyeballs, I've been in ZakuZz's situation before, and I think the best solution here for the Shockwaves is to lightly defend outside the throne room, keep ZakuZz borderline in the throne room, since he's already hit level 20. At this rate, he just needs a starter item upgraded to be hitting full damage. Just leave him in the throne room, let him deal with the waves, keep him pushed no further than basically where he's standing right now. And that way, ZakuZz can fall back quickly to defend and give you your sustained damage on the Titan. There's no reason, in my mind, that they should let ZakuZz push up. That should be everybody else's job to buy some time. And then one thing that we didn't talk about that is important to note here, and kind of a slight that we missed, is that Reyhum doesn't have amazing options to turn into in terms of changing the course of a team fight. There's not a Poseidon that Reyhum can turn into or something like that. So that could also affect this final siege.
And now we see him walking in. Will they be able to take this Phoenix? They're going to opt not to. TheCasualOne is just sitting there supporting ACookieNamedJoe. Ganondad looking to get a cheeky blink hop on top. But here comes the blink. Here comes the hop. And now there's on top with the bat out of hell. Trying to get any damage that he can. Can't find enough. Now that's one ultimate down. And Seismic Shockwaves being pushed behind. And that Phoenix is just being melted. There is no fire resistance there. SwagMaster on the tail of assault. That Titan is just falling to more Winions. And here comes the right Phoenix falling to Winions as well. The Seismic Shockwaves has just got so much on their plate. Eclipse can just afford to let the minions do everything. There goes SwagMaster falling to ACookieNamedJoe, and I think it's the beginning of the end here. Gymkhana being pulled in, trying to stall as long as he can, falls to Redneck Yoda, and that Titan is just gone. Goodbye. Eclipse pulls out the victory in Game 3. Well, like we said, Eclipse has a habit of bringing it to Game 3, but at least they can clean up, to say the least. And they played phenomenally there, too. They were ahead, and they pushed it. They went objectives. They didn't let it turn into a bloodbath. I think that was the big problem with Game 1. They seemed a bit more focused on kills rather than objectives, and I think that's what kind of ended it for them. Game 2 was it started out a bit of the same, but ACookieNamedJoe was able to clean up with the Gold Fury and just start pushing it. Game 3 was simply textbook. If you look up Smite in a textbook, you'll see that whole game just described to you, because that was beautiful. They had a lead, they took it a bit sloppy when they could afford to be, but that's just nitpicking at that point. They were able to distract Seismic Shockwaves long enough for the Winions to be able to do enough chip damage, and all it took was they step in and they just do a little bit more until all of a sudden that Titan just fell.
Yeah, I'm sure it could feel like I was harping on the Shockwaves a lot, but that's because I could see a lot of the potential that they were showing consistently, especially in Game 1. There was an incredibly good team there, and I think the mentality of Game 2 may have had an effect on Game 3. I mean, I say that as an assumption from a spectator perspective, but obviously I'm not in the comms. I'm not directly involved with their chats between games and such. So, that could be coming from an incorrect place. So a lot of it is just plain and simple what we saw from Spectator. And plain and simple, what I saw from Spectator is that the Shockwaves needed to adjust during game 2, and if not during game 2, they needed to have a completely different mindset to farming and to fighting in game 3. And we saw it a bit at the start. We saw Reyhum getting aggressive in mid and such, and we saw Ganondad trying to make plays happen, but they were consistently getting outmatched and kind of beaten to the punch. And I think the easiest way to solve that is just a simple VOD review of probably 3 things: positioning, ward coverage, and farming, which are, basics of team play. But I think looking at those 3 things and honing in on them and where those went wrong could probably lead to the cleanest corrections that could be made.
And it's hard to really say what went really wrong between game 1, game 2, and game 3, because it felt like Seismic Shockwaves was really so well put together game 1, and it almost felt like they fell apart a little bit. I think if they're able to capture what worked in game 1 and just start pushing that, I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, to say the least, because they were just amazing. They were firing all cylinders. They were coordinated. They took out the weak spots. They found the Achilles heel and just walked away with it. I think game 3 was a bit of a draft diff. I think when it came to Reyhum just constantly getting beat out by the Heimdall, and like you said, no one really to transform into to turn the game around, right? And I think that was a good pick on Rizzler to not give Reyhum that pick.
For sure.
But I think it also could have hurt them in the same way because they don't have it. But, like, that's the point. If you're ahead, you don't need it. But if you're behind, you're kind of suffering for it. And Rizzler didn't give Reyhum that opportunity to turn to someone who could turn the fight away. And it was tough for Seismic Shockwaves, but they really did their best, I gotta say.
Nothing but agreement here. Congrats on the gems, nerd. But yeah, I think that's all I have. I mean, realistically, Eclipse just needs to continue doing more of the same.
Mm-hmm. Eclipse, if they find out what changed and how game 1 is so different from 2 and 3, I think they can actually run away with this league, because that was beautiful and just all around great play from everybody. There wasn't a single lane that wasn't holding up their own, and I think that was a big problem for Shockwaves too. They couldn't really find a weakness to exploit easily. ACookieNamedJoe was just destroying duo lane and able to get away in some things that he shouldn't have been able to get away in. And we saw that TheCasualOne was doing just fine in solo. Rizzler was being Rizzler in mid, and there was just nothing to exploit, which just made Seismic Shockwaves have that much more of a problem. All right, so that's gonna do it for us here tonight, Divine, with Eclipse versus Seismic Shockwaves. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your little cog champ, Gearchief. With me, I got AnthonyMalum, and on production is iNooblet. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.